attack this lap.
Check the flag, check the flag.
This is it.
Welcome to our worldwide adventure. This is Extreme E.
This journey has been tough.
One of the biggest accidents of the season!
But we fight for a reason. We stand together, united as one. Racing in the footsteps of giants.
It's absolutely full throttle, the car is dialed!
To leave a legacy worth fighting for. We are the first.
One more race and we will crown our Extreme E champions.
But we won't be the last. Our time is now.
The first ever season of Extreme E reaches a climax this weekend in Dorset in the west of England. It's the championship finale, the Jurassic Prix. Hello and welcome to the fifth and final round of Extreme E 2021. We're at the Ministry of Defence base in Bovington for the final showdown. I'm Jenny Gow and I'm joined in the commentary box by Andrew Coley.
What a year it's been. We've seen some epic racing in some of the most remote parts of the world to help raise awareness of the climate crisis. And now we're finishing the season right here in the UK with Nico Rosberg's RXR team going head-to-head with Lewis Hamilton's X44 for the inaugural Extreme E Championship. If you're watching for the first time, this is especially for you.
The consequences of climate change are affecting millions of people across the planet.
Cities worldwide are going to become uninhabitable.
Extreme E is an all-electric off-road racing series with a purpose, raising awareness of the devastating effect climate change is having on our planet. In fully electric off-road SUVs.
In climate change, there cannot be one winner. Everyone needs to win, or we all lose.
Racing in some of the most remote and damaged areas on Earth.
For really seeing what the issues are, but then importantly what we can do to help be part of the solution, making this world better for the future as well.
To tackle these demanding locations requires one of the most robust racing cars ever built. The Odyssey 21.
To have immediate power when you touch the throttle pedal, it's proper exciting to drive.
The Extreme E side and the actual racing coming together, it's going to take it by storm.
With some of the biggest names in motorsport behind the wheel and a 50-50 split male and female driver lineup, teams will go wheel to wheel on the most extreme terrains, in the most extreme temperatures, driving the most extreme vehicle. Backed by a team of industry-leading scientists to guarantee we not only race without a trace, but we leave a lasting legacy at every location.
Wouldn't it be great to be a part of something that really does make a difference?
This is fierce and exciting racing with the future of our planet at its heart. This is the greatest adventure of our time. This is Extreme E.
So that is what it's all about. This first season of Extreme E has seen high drama, controversy and some absolutely superb racing from some of the world's best drivers. Qualifying for the final event gets underway shortly and the championship is very much in the balance.
After an epic worldwide adventure, Nico Rosberg's RXR lead by 16 points ahead of Lewis Hamilton's X44 and are the only teams still in the fight for the inaugural championship crown. But how did we get to this moment?
Round one, the Desert X Prix in Saudi Arabia, highlighting the issue of desertification. Some massive crashes in the first event showed just how extreme this series was going to be. But three teams, Andretti United, Rosberg X Racing and X44, made it to the final. Johan Kristoffersson, the now four-time World Rallycross champion, secured the lead before Aussie rally star Molly Taylor brought the car home for the win.
Nice job, guys.
Round two, the Ocean X Prix in Senegal, showcasing ocean pollution and highlighting the threat of sea level rise. The final saw Rosberg X Racing and X44 do battle again, with some fierce door-to-door racing causing X44 to retire, with RXR clinching their second win in a row.
Okay, guys. Thank you.
Round 3, the Arctic X Prix in Greenland, bringing the world's attention to the rapid melting of the Arctic ice sheet. Set against the breathtaking Russell Glacier, qualifying saw Rosberg X Racing's hot streak put on ice.
Oh, Molly Taylor's rolled!
Despite this, they still made the final. 9-time World Rally champion Sebastian Loeb opened a huge gap on lap 1 for X44, but picked up a puncture, leaving Andretti United and RXR to battle for the win. RXR pushed too hard and the car ground to a halt, leaving Andretti United to take home the Arctic X Prix crown.
Congratulations, guys. What a race.
Round 4, the Island X Prix in Sardinia, calling attention to devastating wildfires. X44 had a massive crash in their semi-final race, but progressed to the main event after a penalty for Andretti United. In the final, Chip Ganassi Racing took a commanding lead, followed by X44 and RXR. But disaster for both the race leaders and championship contenders. X44 lay ahead.
X44 are out. No! Broken steering.
RXR swept in to take the victory and make it 3 wins from 4 races.
Thank you, guys. I think we deserve that one.
The championship fight is down to just 2 on Britain's Jurassic coast.
We've raced across some of the world's most extreme terrains, and now it all comes down to this.
We've come this far, we won 3 out of 4 races, and the time has come.
It's been a hard and a long journey, but it's not over yet. The fight is still on.
Everything comes down to this.
X44, masters of qualifying.
RXR, the battle-hardened rulers of racecraft.
A champion will be crowned.
So here are the championship standings as we head into this crucial 5th and final round of the first ever season of Extreme. Rosberg X Racing on 129, just 16 points clear of X44.
And then look at that battle for 3rd spot. Andretti United on 93 points, just 1 point ahead of their rivals JBXE. So much at stake this weekend. It's game on for everybody.
It certainly is game on for everyone. These are the teams that have taken part in the entire season. Even those who aren't up for championship honours are desperate to prove at the end of the year that they've got what it takes. We've had some teams with such bad luck. Is this going to be their redemption weekend?
Well, Jenson Button knows what's at stake in that battle for 3rd spot. He is eager to get going this weekend and for his team to take on the challenge that is the Jurassic X Prix in Dorset, England.
We come here like every race to win. It's a very different type of terrain to what we've had. It's very, very muddy. It's not sandy like we've had for the last 4. So it's very different. The guys seem to like it out there. We had a few issues with the brakes, but that's sorted now. So yeah, aim is always to go out and win, and we have 2 fantastic drivers who've just been improving all the time, especially Michaela, from the first race to now. I mean, it's unreal how much she's improved, and she's a real grafter. She's a hard worker, and she's developing into a very, very good off-roader.
I'm with X44's Cristina Gutierrez. Cristina, you've obviously seen the course and how wet and muddy it is. Which parts of the track could the race be won or lost on this weekend?
Yes, the track is very muddy and also slippery, and we try to adapt as much as possible to the condition of the track because each lap is different. So the most important thing is to see how is the track each time.
And it's the last race of the season. It's between yourselves, X44 and RXR, for the inaugural Teams Championship. How important is not just qualifying points, but the Continental Traction Challenge points, as well as the podium points?
Yes, now we are in the point that we need to take every point. Each point is important for us because we are fighting for the championship. So for us, it's very important to take all of these points.
And you've done so well in qualification throughout this season, but the actual race has presented difficulties and challenges at each stop. What can you do to eliminate that possibility here at the Jurassic X Prix? An impossible question, I know.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I need to pray a little bit, but I don't know exactly. We try to do our best all the time, so I hope this time we have luck.
Well, I'm wishing you lots of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sebastian Loeb, Cristina Gutierrez, you know, the P2 in the standings. They've been so fast, they just need that little change, don't they, on day 2 of the event?
Yeah, it's funny that the days just not come together on a Sunday, but they are still in with a good shout at this. Yes, okay, it might be RXR's team, the teams to lose, but they've still got a shout.
Yeah, they have, and we know they will push for every single point they can grab.
So what is this track going to throw up? What are the challenges around this 3.85 kilometre challenge of Bovington, the Jurassic X Prix? Well, let's talk you through the course guide so you can understand it a little bit more, find out the challenges, the bumps, the lumps, the sand, the mud, the gravel, you name it, we've thrown it at them.
Let's take a look at the track for round 5 of Extreme Dorset. Bovington Tank Ranges, it's a shorter circuit than normal, so the first driver will take 2 laps and the second driver 1. The first corner is a tight left-hander after an uphill muddy start where traction is going to be at a premium. It's into the funnel and then around a 90-degree left at the end of the straight. You can see bottom left of your screen. Down then onto the back straight, tree-lined narrow sections which are muddy and wet. Visibility as well as grip is going to be low. On board here you can see mud up over the screens. That's just with 1 car on track. When we get to racing and we've got 5, things are going to get very interesting indeed. The Continental Traction Challenge across the back of the circuit. Up and over this crest into the left-hander. It's going to be key how you find traction out of this huge wet area. Understeer here for the Andretti United machine in free practice, and then blasting away down the back straight through the ditch. Very long, quick, committed section where we think people will be using the hyperdrive before coming up to threading the needle in between the trees, left, right, and then right again, heading out onto the run up to the big jump. Probably the biggest jump of the season, certainly if you get it wrong. You need to squash it on the brakes, just get a little bit of air, land it on the downslope, and then boost it away. This was Sarah Price in free practice. That is just a little bit too much sauce. Andretti United, Katie Munnings made the same mistake too. Damage to those cars meant that their drivers didn't get to do their practice lap. Very little time on track, of course, for anybody to try and get their heads around grip levels and get the cars dialed into what is undoubtedly a very different surface for the whole of the rest of the season. A fitting end to the first ever year of this brand new electric off-road motorsport. This muddy, tricky track in the UK will decide who is the first ever Extreme E champion.
One of the key principles of Extreme E is to highlight the impact of climate change and human actions on the environment. Climate change is closely interconnected with biodiversity loss, and the UK is one of the least biodiverse countries in the world. Here's Dr. Lucy Woodall to explain more. No matter where you are on the planet, the natural world surrounds us. We are part of it and rely on it to produce food, provide the air we breathe, and soak up carbon in the atmosphere. We can measure the variety of plant and animal life, the biodiversity of a particular habitat, by collecting data and recording the amount of species there are.
The word biodiversity comes from biological diversity. So really that is describing all the variety of the types of life, but also all of the variety within life. So all the genetic diversity that allows organisms to adapt. Encompassed in that is how that life itself interacts with the ecosystems and habitats of which it's a part.
If we take all the data scientists can produce, the Biodiversity Intactness Index, this tells what % of biodiversity is left intact in a specific area after human impact. We need biodiversity intactness to be at 90%. This is considered the safe level to prevent the world tipping into an ecological recession and putting us at risk. The global biodiversity intactness level is currently at 75%.
In the UK, we have very few ancient woodlands, and the majority of our land mass here in the UK would have been ancient oak woodlands, and would have been heathlands, would have been sand dunes. A lot of this reduction has happened many years ago through Industrial Revolution. So now we're left with little tiny pockets of fragmented habitats.
It's in crisis, essentially. We know since Industrial Revolution, Agricultural Revolution, the changes over the last sort of 100, 150 years, our biodiversity is crumbling. You know, we're on the edge of the abyss, really.
The United Kingdom's biodiversity intactness is at a shocking 50%, the lowest in the G7.
So what we need to do now is we need to preserve what we've got, because these are very special and unique habitats. But we also need to be thinking about restoring other locations.
Everybody who's got any kind of back garden or any bit of land they have any influence over, rewilding, nature recovery can start there. And there's loads of initiatives out there on conservation organisations like the RSPB, the National Trust, the Wildlife Trust, Butterfly Conservation. They've all got very good practical guides as to how you can do something to make a difference.
There's lots of aspects of our lives, and small changes from each of us will mean that together we can create a planet that is better for future generations.
Well, food for thought from Dr. Lucy Woodall, one of Extreme E's scientific committee. We are fast approaching the start of the first qualifying session for the Jurassic X Prix. It's time for the action to begin.
It is time for qualifying, the first of our qualifying sessions, as we see all 9 cars going out on track in turn. As you can see, 8 degrees centigrade, actually quite mild for this time of year. I'm Jenny Gow, alongside me, Andrew Coley. 2 minutes to 12, and we are ready for the action to get underway here in the UK, Bovington. And you can see it's a little muddy.
It is a little muddy, yes. If you've never been to the UK before, welcome to our winter. That's pretty much what it looks like. Grey, wet, muddy.
Attention all teams.
But it is nice, slippery conditions. Here we go.
The Jurassic X Prix is about to begin.
Scott Elkins, race director, teeing the teams up. The first of the teams are in the command centre, ready and waiting to go. That's Jutta Kleinschmidt, because Matthias Ekstrom is in the car. Jenny, we've got a different way of doing laps this weekend.
We have. They'll still go around, don't you worry, but it's 2 laps for the first driver, 1 lap for the second driver.
And also it's been prescribed by the regulations as to which driver goes first. So that means that the men are starting in Q1, the women are starting in Q2, the men will start the semi-finals and the women will start the final.
Windscreen wipers on already, as you can see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm intrigued to see just how much they're going to need. It's really tomorrow, Jenny, is what I'm kind of more intrigued about with regard to the wipers. But Ekstrom off the line. There's that little dry patch across the track and a few bumps as well, just finding the traction. It gets narrow. I mean, I think you could get 2 cars through some of that, but look at the visibility already. It's pretty horrendous.
It's a real shocker, and some of the drivers will be more experienced at that than others, and I'm really feeling for the circuit drivers right now, whose experience of dealing with mud splattering all over you is limited.
Yeah, that's when you've hit the grass, isn't it, shortly before you hit the gravel trap and the race is over. So whereas with rallying, it's a pretty regular thing. I think most of them will be fine with it. It's just that disconcerting feeling of losing the vision when you're pushing hard. You know, the road's coming at you quickly and you're kind of pointing the car roughly in the direction you want it to go. That's one of those quick corners which Sebastian Loeb was talking about yesterday, saying there are some faster, more committed corners, and that's actually quite a dry section of track as well. Look at the difference in the background.
Yeah, you can see there's almost a little bit of a dust layer there. You've got a little bit of loose gravel as well, but then back into the splash section as well. You can see it really kicking up all that dirt. Fabulous.
Huge steering input from Ekstrom there as he came around the left-hander. The effort that you have to have with the wheel, the water affects what direction the wheels are heading in as well. Obviously, big wheels and tyres, if you're hitting puddles hard, it will pull on the car hard and make it change direction. You've got to hang on to it. Interestingly, some modifications this weekend to the steering. We know there have been a few issues with the steering, and we've had some disappointing disappointing ends to races thanks to those mechanical issues, but the steering has been upgraded quite heavily, and I think a good job looking at how much they're having to use it.
Yeah, really having to hang on. This coming up to the jump, so a little bit of air there, not taking too much. You've got to be a little bit cautious and just try and time it exactly right to get the most amount of traction, lift off and then coming back down again.
I think Ekstrom's just gone into the Continental Traction Challenge at the back of the track. You can see the continental flags next to one of the waypoint markers. We're seeing these sections of track for the first time along with you guys. Up through that darker section of mud now. And then another bumpy crested section.
That's quite fast, no?
Yeah, and this is also, yeah, where you've got a choice of line. Now, so far, yesterday in free practice, all the drivers were using the line that Ekstrom took there, which is driver's left. So as they're coming up the hill, there are two different chutes, and he's chosen the one on the left-hand side. That's the one they've all been using.
Yeah, if you've heard us talking about the twins, that's what that refers to.
Ekstrom in full concentration mode. I think he's just gone over the start line. He has. So that's a lap already. Gives you an idea of just how short it is. This is effectively turn one. To the right-hander is a bit of a non-event. This left-hander here is your proper turn one. I do think there's opportunities to pass here, Jenny, but I think it's going to be from pushing the other driver hard. And I don't mean contact, although with the visibility we've got, I think we could see some contact accidentally in that run to the first corner, but more about pressurising them. So get up behind them, put them under pressure, and hope they run a bit deep on the brakes. Also, don't forget, they've got a hyperdrive, which they can use once per lap, and or once per driver, I think it is. That section back there was a little bit wide. We've got the run up to the big jump as well. So I think hyperdrive for passes on those short straights.
Yeah, I think you're right. Actually, I think it's hyperdrive every lap they get to go round, so they can use that strategically, tactically, and then obviously you've also got the traction challenge where an extra 5 points are up for grabs if you can put in the fastest time around that section of the track across the weekend. That counts for. So we saw strategically some people going earlier on last time out because the conditions of the track deteriorate. The conditions of the track here could actually get better.
Yeah, the conversations we had yesterday with some of the drivers were suggesting they're expecting that, what they call a slime layer that's on the top there, to be scraped off.
Is that the official term, a slime layer?
Well, certainly in the States when they race things like Pro 4 trucks on the dirt, they take what's called a blade out and they scrape off the top layer of the track to take it down a layer to the more solid dirt. So the slime layer is like a horrible slippery surface on the top, and you can see the more cars head through, the more the water is dispersed and also some of that slimy mud that's on top. It's not going to happen everywhere, Jenny. It's too wet. But I think certainly in some areas the track will get better, and I'm expecting this qualifying session maybe to get a little bit quicker as we go through the cars. So maybe not ideal to be running so soon in the session.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. So it's Apt first, then you've got Veloce, Excite, JBXE, Andretti United, RXR, X44, Acciona Sainz and Chip Ganassi. That's the run order, but right now it's the first car out on track. It is Matthias Ekstrom. This is his second lap round. We're expecting a lap to be around the 10-minute mark when they've all three laps have taken place, and the switch zone is going to be a moment of focus, I think it's fair to say, when they come in and have to switch drivers. Down to 30 kilometers an hour, painfully slow it must feel, but we saw a lot of cars slipping and sliding on the entry to switch. There you can see Jutta Kleinschmidt standing by and ready to go.
Yeah, the technician that's with her has got her seat insert. We're taking a look back at some drone footage of the run up to the jump. Look how wide the jump is. I think this is an opportunity to pass. You could risk it over the jump. We saw Munnings and Price went too hard on the jump and damaged the car. That's too far, but you could jump, say, 10 meters over that and manage to gain a little bit of time on another car, especially with the use of hyperdrive in the run up to it.
I'm sure I just heard the reset button go off from that car. There's a beep, 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 which goes off. Sorry about the poor impression, but it sounded like they'd reset it. Thanks very much. And I can tell you what, having been in one of these cars now, which was an absolute thrill, thank you for everyone who organised it, those seat belts are not easily done.
No, they're not. It's the lap belts which are hard. The shoulder belts are always easy, but lap belts are tricky to get right. Oh dear, there we go.
Slippy sloppy. Oh, so you can see she's holding these little covers that they've managed to get for the different drivers. So the driver that gets in tries to keep the boots clean enough so that they can not slip around on the pedals when they're there, because it's such a fine skill, isn't it? You look at this and think, oh, well, there's not much precision, but the pedal work is still very precise. You have to be really on it.
Yeah, you do, very much. Watching Jutta now, look at her looking for the exit, and then she'll release all the power from the car. And away, lots of wheel spin and away straight away. Good driver change from them. Kleinschmidt should be a bit of a weapon in these conditions. Look at it though, the bumps, Jenny, and the car there just sideways with the tiniest little bit of throttle and steering input down towards the first corner, and just nice and late on the brakes. That gives you an idea of the scale of the site in Dorset.
Yeah, and it's interesting, some of that mud looks really claggy, like you're getting bogged down in it. Other bits, you're really sort of on top of it.
Yeah, Kleinschmidt's line there through turn 1 was actually really nice. She was on the inside line. It looked like she found more grip on the exit, unless she just waited a little bit longer on the throttle. Again, you know, with the water's going to move around during the course of the weekends. Big commitment down through this section here. If you get it wrong on the brakes, it's just a little bit narrow, you know, coming in between the trees.
Nice hyperdrive usage there as well. Got some real speed going into that, carrying the extra kilowatt power for 4 seconds.
This is one of those committed corners. So you're coming in here leaning on the car. You're trusting that it's going to turn in, and in those wet, slippery conditions, that takes quite a lot of trust in the car. You've got to have the feeling for it. Remember, they're not getting many laps around this course. The exit of that turn is drier, but it's the entry to it where the fear is. You know, you want to make sure the car's turning in.
So that's the little kick up. Bit of a water event here, going through the water splashes. Windscreen wipers back on, just having to really deal with where you're going, and you don't have the knowledge from having done loads of laps of this track, so you're really having to try and take on board every moment of qualifying, what you're seeing, what your reference point is, how you're going to judge it. Great on-board shot there as
lovely.
well.
It gives a really good idea of how blind the corners are through that section. Continental Traction Challenge at the back, coming up to the knife edge. So the knife edge, I think, is in the Traction Challenge from the looks of things.
Yep, it certainly is.
So that's interesting as well. So for me, Sebastian Loeb and Cristina Gutierrez really need to go for that section, Jenny. They need to risk it for a time, because those extra 5 championship points could be crucial in trying to close down RXR. RXR can take a slightly more measured approach, and I think a lot of the teams have come to the conclusion that that's the right way. You know, you must make it to the final. If you don't make it to the final, it's game over anyway.
Yeah.
But I think X44, you're in P2. So why not risk it? I would risk it and go for it.
Yeah, I think you've got to measure it, haven't you, and work it out. And there's no prizes. Well, there is a prize for coming second, but it's not quite as good as the prize for coming first.
Yeah, but second place is first loser, isn't it?
Well,
That's what they all say.
yeah.
You know what the drivers are like. They all want to win, and Cristina and Sebastian will desperately want to take this title away from RXR. There it is. Over the finish, nicely done by Ekstrom and Kleinschmidt. It's a 9:24.113. Veloce on the line waiting to go. 2 driver changes for them this weekend compared to last weekend. There's Jamie Chadwick, who picked up her second W Series title. Fantastic job by her this season. She's had a test prior to this event, which I'm really pleased about because it's so different to single-seater racing. And in the car this time, to start, is Lance Woolridge. So Lance has been their reserve driver all year. He is a great off-road driver, and he replaces Stefan Sarazan. So is this a test for next year, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. And I think Lance was actually fairly unlucky not to get the seat at the beginning of this season. So let's see what Woolridge can do. His first time out in a qualifying session. And I really want to see how aggressive he goes. I want to see how much he puts into this, because the pressure's off. They're not really competing for for a championship place or whatever. That's done, really. However, the pressure is kind of on him, because if he wants this seat for next year, if he wants to push Sarazan out, he's got to perform well.
Yeah, we spoke about this, didn't we, with Emma Gilmore, actually, Jenny, the fact that you come in and you've got one shot, or you don't know if you're going to get another shot. Certainly Emma didn't earlier on this year. And Lance, of course, knows he's not going to get another shot this season because this is the last event of the year. So he's got to get in the car and he's got to get the job done. He uses the hyperdrive down there, down that back straight. Is that where we saw Kleinschmidt use it as well? I think it is.
Yeah, they normally, don't they, all sort of end up doing a very similar thing when it comes to hyperdrive, whether they'll catch out, try out different options as they go through the course of the weekend. If they've got time to do that, I don't know. This is the first little mini jump at waypoint 10 into the water splash. Now he goes around the outside of that water, doesn't want to get involved in it.
There may be a bit more grip there. Remember, he's a very experienced off-road driver, so rally raid style events down in South Africa. Okay, now he uses the hyperdrive, sorry, so he didn't use it earlier on. It's 400 kilowatts of power for 4 seconds this weekend. With the track being a bit shorter, oh, look at the commitment through here. Woolridge is really trying.
I love that. That was Hairy Mary stuff, just to show you how muddy it is. The camera gets a good old whack of it around the sides. They'll clean it up for next time, don't worry. I'm really interested to see how much air he gets then going into the big knife edge jump, because Woolridge looks like he's taking no prisoners here.
Tidily done over that. So he was about 1.5 seconds down. In that one sector where he pushed really hard, he took back nearly 1.25 seconds. So he was just 1/4 second down. Now at the bottom of your screen, you can see it gets updated live effectively every time he crosses through a waypoint. Threads the car round to the right-hand side. He's using the full width of the road here, Jenny. He definitely is trying, and it's impressive so far.
Yeah, really impressive. Now, it's worth noting that Woolridge is a lot taller than Sarrazin, so the seating position looks very different. You can see him taking the left hand of those twin lines coming around. Yeah, the seating position will be very different, and that'll be a challenge for Chadwick, because she's going to get into this car after 2 laps and then have to work out exactly how she'll fit in this car to make it work for both of them.
Yeah, they may have had to adjust the seat inserts between them. So I think Sarrazin and Chadwick were pretty similar in height. You can see the difference between line there on the virtual map as to the lap, and if you're heading into the switch zone. So they've just passed by the switch zone. That's the start-finish now that Woolridge goes over. About 2 seconds down on the benchmark, which I think would be Ekstrom at this point, as he was first in the car.
Oh, look at that movement around there. A little bit of drifting. Just looks absolutely comfortable, doesn't he? For his first ever time qualifying in one of these Odyssey 21s. Looks really comfortable. Mud flicking up everywhere on this really challenging and different terrain. Hyperdrive being deployed now.
It's onto that long straight, isn't it? So they're using it early in the corner with that 4 seconds. Remember last time, Jenny, that we didn't feel they were able to deploy the whole 4 seconds in Sardinia because the straight was too short. So Woolridge there is actually deploying it in the corner prior to the straight as he runs a bit wide on the way in. That's the corner we spoke about. You've got to be brave on the way in there and just feel for the grip, make the car turn in. But yeah, deploying it early and then you can use it the whole way down the straight. Great tactics.
Just wonder, you say you know, you've got to be smart, you've got to be aggressive with that. At what point does aggressive become too much, and how hard is it to tell on the grip levels of these cars?
Well, you've got to feel that for yourself when you're out there on your run. At the minute, he's doing a good job because he's in touch with the only other car we've seen. I suppose as the session goes on, we'll get a better idea of whether or not the track is getting any quicker and cleaner, and also how hard these guys are trying right at the start. You know, how quick were Kleinschmidt and Ekstrom. And of course, you know, we haven't had a benchmark on Woolridge. We don't really know where he is compared to the other drivers. And likewise, really, Jenny, with Chadwick, she never got to drive in Saudi Arabia. They had issues when they were in Senegal. I'm really looking forward to seeing Jamie back in the car.
Yeah, I think she's looking forward to being in it. Oh, a little bit of lock-up on the way into the big jump there at the knife edge. So I don't think that was planned, but a lot of people using their brakes into that because they don't want to carry too much speed, therefore get too much air and lose the opportunity. You can see they're catching, closing down the lead time at the moment. Really nice run from Woolridge out there.
Yeah, it is indeed. 1.18 down, coming around to those 2 chutes. Look up in front and you can see the choice. There are 3 different lines on board now. You can see they can only use the 2 which are over to the right. And you can see why they're using the one they're using, Jenny, if they approach it straight. So to use the right-hand chute, you'd actually have to turn right to go up the hill there. I think you're only going to do that if you feel you've got a chance to pass somebody, and I can't see it unless they've got a problem. Oh, he's late on the brakes into the 30 zone, just about holds on. Chadwick heading out now into the quagmire to try and get herself into the car. Good run, I think, for Woolridge. He can breathe a big sigh of relief. That's a great start, isn't it, to his Extreme E career?
Yeah, really good opening gambit. So he's going to hand over to Jamie Chadwick, who's going to do 1 lap. Now, I'm just interested. So there's the inlay for the seat, which she'll have to use because she's that much shorter. Those buttons are actually pretty stubborn on the dash, so you've really got to whack them to make sure you get the car to respond. The door is heavy. Getting out and in is a real challenge if you've not had too much time and too much experience doing that. And you can just see the difference in height by the way that Chadwick's seat inlay is.
There's a lot of material in the base of the seat, Jenny, which is interesting. So, look, you guys at home will know the score. Some people are tall in the body and some people are tall in the legs. So when I sit down at the dinner table, I look pretty short. I'm 6'2" because it's all in the legs. So interestingly, I think Woolridge is tall in the body because Chadwick was lifted up. Did you see that the height of it was about 4 or 5 inches in the base of the seat? So it gives you, the ergonomics of people and getting them in the position they want to be in. Or it could be that Jamie prefers to sit a little bit higher and be able to see a little bit more of the road.
Yeah, she's quite high up, isn't she? And a lot of the girls were saying, actually, when I was speaking to them, that their heads are really moving around, and I certainly experienced that in the car, and it's not a particularly pleasant feeling to have your car rocking around. So let's go down to the switch zone.
That was your first competitive lap here at the Jurassic X Prix. Talk me through it, and how did you find the car?
Yeah, really good. Exciting to, you know, finally go out in anger. Car was perfect. Obviously yesterday I didn't get a good run having no brakes, but today really felt a good rhythm in the car. No problems, and the track's drying out a bit as well. Slippery, but it's really nice.
Thank you so much. Best of luck.
Thank you.
No brakes. No, not the best when it comes to driving one of these Odyssey 21s. A lot of the teams saying they were struggling with that yesterday. The abrasive nature of the track out there not really helping to prolong the life of those brake pads. They have found a few workarounds today, which is good news. But let's see what Chadwick can do now. She's going to do one lap of this 3.8 kilometre track.
So Chadwick comes onto the section where Woolridge was using his hyperdrive earlier on. I'm keen to see, Jenny, if there are places later on on the track where you could use it to pass. I do think that run up to coming through, the run up to the jump is another option for it. Yeah, hold on to it. Who was it? It was Kyle Leduc, wasn't it, who saved it back in Senegal? And in fact, he passed everybody anyway during the course of the lap, but we'd already spotted the fact that that last straight to the finish line in Senegal was a good place to overtake. So that would maybe be a decent place to use it. Chadwick was catching just in that last sector.
Yeah, that section's not gone well for her. The approach to the jump, she seemed to slow a little bit, maybe early on the brakes. Then she comes over and finds a lot of that standing water as well. So it looks like she's just not quite nailed the line of that bit.
That's the long left-hander where we've seen quite a lot of understeer. And here, so Chadwick's using the hyperdrive at the back. That's a narrow section to use it on, but you can see the advantage again. Okay, so that's another place where the teams are looking to deploy it. Don't forget, they're trying to find some data at this point as well. Chadwick's attacking the narrow section. Go on, that's great. Come on, get in.
She was using that in the same place that Lance used it on the first lap out there, and I think you carry a lot of speed into that corner, and I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I want to see a few of the others do the same thing.
So most of the time that Chadwick lost was actually in the first few corners, Jenny. So she lost about a second, a flag, if you like, for the first 4 or 5 flags. She had a bit of understeer in turn 1. Since then, really, has been bang on the pace. So to be fair, she's jumped in the car. She's felt her way into the first few corners and is now on the pace. So I think she'll be happy with that. Obviously, still, yeah, a little bit of lap. Yeah, exactly. A little bit of lap to go. Nowhere near as experienced, obviously, as you to Kleinsmith in terms of off-road driving. Kleinsmith won the Dakar. I think one stage on the Dakar would be about 100 times the amount of seat time that Chadwick's had in this car since the start of the year. So she's doing a great job here.
Yeah, she really is. She's representing very well. She takes that left-hand lane up through the twins and comes towards the start-finish line. Well, they'll clock up their time catching at the moment. So a really strong performance from Chadwick. She crosses the line. Second place, it's a 9:30.380 for Woolridge and Chadwick. So Ollie Bennett starting the second of his laps, and he's going to see what he can do. A relatively good first lap, and he'll gain confidence every time he goes around this 3.85 kilometre stint. You can see him applying the brakes, getting around there. A nice bit of slide from the rear end past gate 4. This is the skinny section where it's going to be very difficult to go 2 abreast, but it opens out into 5. Oh, and he's clogged the waypoint, so that'll be a penalty, I'm pretty sure of. Maybe 10 seconds for hitting it. We'll see when it comes out.
Did he take it down or did he just nudge it?
I don't know.
You do?
I don't know.
Commit, Jenny.
I need
commit.
a replay. I think he took it out.
Okay, there we go. Jenny Gale says she thinks he took it out. Fair enough. I must admit, I was looking at the timing screens at the time. Another section of the track, of course, which is going to be timed, is coming up now. You can see Ollie Bennett heading into the Continental Traction Challenge. 5 bonus championship points if you're fastest there through the course of the weekend. Well, imagine if it was tight enough for that to come down to the final and be a factor.
Da, da, da.
Yeah, we also, of course, don't know if it's going to be possible because some of the tracks, like Sardinia, after the first couple of qualifying sessions, Jenny, you just couldn't go as quickly through that section. We really don't know how this one's going to develop.
When you're racing, it must mean that you're not quite as focused on trying to get... I mean, you're trying to obviously to go as fast as you possibly can, but getting the Traction Challenge away isn't going to be predominantly at the front of your mind, and trying to do that when there's other vehicles on track as well going to be more difficult. So when they're out there as a single car, I think that's the time to try and strike, to really try and set that fastest time.
100% agree, yeah, which is why I think we'd expect to see it Loeb, particularly. We saw Loeb last time we did with Sardinia with the Loeb line, if you remember.
Yeah,
which,
that was great.
Cost Serrazan dear, didn't it, on day 2? through the low line, if you remember, but I'm expecting to see him push for those Chap 5 championship points. Obviously, other people will be pushing for them too, but it's crucial for them. Quite nice as well, Jenny, is that in the running order, Rosberg X Racing and X44 are actually running one car after the other, so we know their track conditions will be very similar.
You're so minxy. I knew you'd spot that and call it out as exciting for the championship, and I actually think it is. It's really great that they're running one after the other. And I'm always interested to see what the drivers learn from everybody else going out on track. The low blind, I think, was educated from him, and then everybody else was like, oh yeah, I want a bit of that. So I'm always intrigued to see how this develops through the course of a weekend. Who's brave to try something a little bit different, and who picks up on it.
Ollie just jumped out of one of the two chutes there up, which was interesting. I don't think we've seen him really get air over that so far. Slows the car down now.
I don't know if he got there quite in time. 30 kilometres, pit limiter that you put on.
So this is the point that Jenny thinks Ollie might have hit the flag, so he's on the brakes into the corner. Oh yeah, that's nailed.
Yeah,
good call, Gal. Yeah, good call.
You wanted me to nail it, and I don't think I was in a position to do it, but I did it anyway.
You did, mate. You made a decision. Like all good stewards do, you made a decision there.
Don't go there.
Well,
too early.
It's an obvious one, isn't it? At least it's an easy decision. To be fair, there've been tougher decisions. There've been tougher decisions this year, but that's an early obvious. Yeah, Ollie nailed the flag basically.
Into the switch then, and it's time for Christine GZ to get in. Ollie Bennett, he's done a really good job, I think, for the team. So Christine will get in, and she'll see what she can do out there. Really good catching up with a lot of them yesterday.
Wipers just keep pressing the button.
He said to me about the wipers just keep pressing the button, so I thought he'd said at first the wipers aren't working, but I don't think he did, because we can see they're working right now.
Yeah, one of the cars I was in the other day, you really had to depress it several times. How's your Spanish?
Not good.
Okay. Go is the sign.
Go, yeah, they're saying go. So maybe a long hold there, difficult for us to tell. Either way, they're 26 seconds down on the fastest time at the moment. 10-second penalty we're hearing from race control for the flag as well, so that's 36 seconds down. Jenny's not the start to the weekend they would have been looking for, unfortunately.
No, but other teams have done similar, and they have got penalties, and they've still put in a decent time, so I don't think you have to write it off, and it is a learning curve every time you go out in these cars, but yeah, a little bit disappointing. I'm sure he'll be disappointed with having come into that and getting that 10-second penalty.
So Christine GZ is catching, you can see from the green graphic at the bottom of your screen, just in that sector. There's the flag, which now doesn't matter if she takes it down, because Ollie's taken it down already for her. So maybe that's a tactic we should be looking for. Take the flag down and then let your teammate drive over it. She deploys the hyperdrive down that back straight. That's definitely the place where you can use all 4 seconds of that extra power boost. And now coming into a couple of the right-handers. This next one is the one where you've just got to make sure the car turns in. So put the weight over the nose of the car, get it turned in. There's a puddle there on the entry, which is going to keep it slippery, certainly for the course of today. And then the exit's a bit drier. Good speed through there.
God, you can just see she's bouncing around. It's such an aggressive track out there. You've really got to be on your game over this little bump. So that's the first of them, called the ditch. And then you go into this standing water. The way you tackle is so important to coming out of that and getting as much speed as you can going into 10-11. You're in the middle of the traction challenge and going towards the knife edge drop.
So tell me about this ride, Jenny. I haven't had a ride yet. I'm horrified. This is an Equal Opportunities Championship, and I haven't had a ride.
Ladies first.
That's true. That is true.
Equal opportunities. The chivalry isn't dead. Yeah, it was great. I was able to go alongside Molly Taylor. Katie Munnings was there as well. So they've been doing some Blue Peter filming in the morning. It was a really good experience to get out there and understand a bit more about the car, about what it's like to feel the weight of it behind you, almost pushing you forward. We did a little jump. That was kind of cool. Not quite as high as that.
Yeah,
not as high as that.
Chris, so that's a good example of how to fly the jump if you want to go long without damaging the car. You mustn't land to flat. Yesterday, Katie and Sarah landed to flat, meaning they're not on the down ramp. There you can see GZ got away with it. She landed on the down ramp and would have gained a bit of time. So that's an opportunity for a pass. She executed that really well. If you're not from the UK and you're wondering what on earth Blue Peter is, it's a kids' TV show where you got a Blue Peter badge if you did something really cool. And Katie Munnings posted a picture on Instagram of her with a Blue Peter badge saying childhood dreams come true, which I thought was really cool.
Have you got one?
No, I have not.
No, I haven't either. That's the dream, isn't it?
It is, isn't it?
Christine saying she felt like she'd gained a lot of confidence coming into this weekend from racing elsewhere this year, and you can see it. You can see the confidence.
She's gained 4 seconds, Jenny, on that second lap.
Yeah, really good time, and 9:46 for Jeezy and Bennett for Excite.
So we're going to take a look back at Jamie Chadwick's onboard from her first lap here in Dorset in competitive conditions. You could see in the first corner there, she tried to get the car chucked in, didn't quite do what she wanted. When we'd seen it from the outside, she'd used the left foot brake to try to get it rotated. In that next right-hander, Jenny on the handbrake to get it turned in, looking really comfortable in the car.
Yeah, certainly her first time back in the championship for a couple of events and back in the Veloce team. She's got a different teammate as well this weekend, but you can see the focus, how much she's bumping around. The input to the pedals, you can just see that on the right-hand side of your screen, and constantly feeding into the steering wheel.
Yeah, so much effort goes into making the car do what you want. If you do look at the pedals in conjunction with the steering inputs, you'll see what she was trying to do in turn one, which is a little bit of steering. It gives a jab on the brakes. There's a little bit more bias to the rear of the car, which means the rear wheels lock up slightly more or slow down slightly more than the front, and that helps to get the car turned in. So there, she's waiting, look, with a lot of steering lock on. There's no grip, no grip, no grip. She gets it straight, then you can open the throttle up and go away. And there's nothing you can do there. Everybody struggled in that long left-hander after that first crest.
And just look at the visibility issues. This track, 3.8 kilometres in Dorset, Bovington, a tank site where they do testing. You can see it's thick mud. It's very difficult to see where you're going, and some of those lanes, little bit of a slide there, not getting it quite right.
Sideways on the way in, wasn't she? It was good to see the commitment there, but yeah, a little bit more opposite lock than she would have liked. But I'm impressed to see the commitment. That's the thing, is having that commitment. You must have confidence in the car. And just for Jamie to have had a bit of seat time prior to the event, not in competitive conditions, probably for the first time since the pre-season test, will have been really good for her.
Yeah, just going over the knife edge there, and a lot of the drivers taking the left-hand side of that so that they can get a better run down and into this section where you want to swing the car around to the right, and then you've got the long straight where you can really get the throttle down, get some speed, but just look how much you're having to use the wheel at this point, dragging the car around.
That exit to that jump, or the run up to it even, is just one of the places where I think you might be able to make a pass on this course when we go racing with several cars on track together. Maybe a bit of hyperdrive across this section, or in the run-up to the jump prior to that, even off the knife edge and down into the right-hander. I think we could see some moves, but there's so much standing water, it's really hard to tell.
Yeah, and then the finishing line really kind of is aggressively there as you come through the twins, one final flagpole, and then through to the finish. Good job by Jamie Chadwick, and you can see pretty happy with that. I think she'll be delighted, and I think the team will be delighted to get a clean run on the board.
Yeah, she was on the radio straight to the team after the run, giving them a bit of feedback about how she felt it went. And now they need to go back, take a look at the data, they'll take a look at the onboards, they'll pore over that, and they'll just try to make the tiny improvements that they can to knock a few seconds off when Chadwick returns to the car later on for Q2.
Time for our second trio to go out in qualifying. We have JBXE, Andretti United and RXR. And look, our little friend the dinosaur has made an appearance, because this is the Jurassic X Prix, and Jenson Button really, really on top form when we spoke to him yesterday. Look. So smart, isn't he? Just waving at the camera. He knows what it's all about, and it's great to see him at the event in Dorset. And his car's out on track right now with Kevin Hansen at the wheel.
Kevin then heading down towards the first corner. You can see a big hand of opposite lock already. Clouds in the sky with a bit of low light as well. I don't know what the forecast is for the weekend. I've not checked. I mean, being the UK, I'm guessing probably just rain and cold for the winter, but Kevin down towards the section where we saw Bennett take a flag down earlier on. No major issues for anyone so far.
Drama-wise.
Yeah, no, pretty similar times as well at the top of the leaderboard. So just 6 seconds between Abt Cooper and Veloce Racing. And that's the time which Kevin Hansen is being compared to down in the bottom right-hand side of your screen. We ride on board now. Yeah, it's interesting to see that there's some sort of monitor on there's a device that looks like a smartphone on the screen, and you can see there's a little monitor there. Go on, Jenny.
I think that's all to do with tyre pressure. So Continental fit that to the car, and they can look at that and get immediate feedback from those tyres to work out what they're doing, which is a really good bit of intel. Not all of the drivers have it up when they're actually on track.
Kevin's done exactly what I said earlier on, tucked it right in on the inside line there and managed to get on the throttle just a little bit earlier on the exit of the left-hander, and 2 seconds now down but catching.
He looks rapid out there, really comfortable. I've just checked the weather forecast. My parents live down the road, so I just looked at their weather. No rain due.
Okay, there we go then, a dry weekend. Now, Kevin Hansen is one of a few drivers who's had to make a flying visit across to Paris as well for the FIA Awards, as he uses the hyperdrive. They left the site via helicopter, jetted off, did the awards, and then came back again via helicopter. Good effort by them to fit that in amongst an Extreme racing weekend, and he is gaining still, so he's now just 3/4 of a second off the, sorry, knocked another 3/4 of a second off that gap.
Yeah, beautiful bit of driving here. Hansen doing a really good job, so excellent skills from him, just coming around that corner, little nod to the right, straight down, and then wrapping round through the water, not taking on too much, and you can definitely see that left-hand lane is definitely the preferred choice. I think it's clear to see from that shot.
Well, it's that straight line braking, Jenny, that's the thing, and again we see it here. So if you wanted to take the right chute, which is actually where our green lines are headed up the screen there, you'd have to turn the car to the right, and that means braking slightly early. You can't carry the speed through it, so I'm not convinced that it's an option. That does give us, though, a great view of the finish line as Kevin Hansen crosses that at the end of his first lap.
So Hansen in the car. Lap 2 for him and the JBXE team. Michaela Olin-Kotolinski standing by to take over after this second lap. But so far, Hansen showing a lot of determination, really going for it this weekend and wanting to have a decent result and get a whole collection of points. Currently, they're in 3rd place in the championship in a real tight battle with Andretti United.
As we see Kevin on his second lap, he's about to come round to a flag, which we've got a man on the end of the line who's familiar with that flag, as Kevin has quite a moment. Ollie Bennett joins us from our paddock commentary box. Ollie, how were the conditions out there for you?
Yeah, hi Andy, Andrew. It was tricky for me. We settled into pace quite good. I think the first sort of 1 to 3 sectors were pretty good, but you can see it there with Kevin there. It's really slippy. You go offline, you go into some of these deep puddles of mud, you can lose a lot of time. So yeah, sector 4 for me was the trickiest over that start finish.
Ollie, what does it feel like out there? What's the grip level for the car?
It's so variable, as you can see now, just flying over these small little crests. They're quite tricky with the suspension, but then as you can see Kevin coming into one of these sort of puddle washes here, it gets deep and soggy really quick. You can see they're losing some traction. So, you know, you go offline, you can hit some puddles that are 4 or 5 feet deep. We've seen wellies lost in them already. So, yeah, it's a tricky track. You've really got to concentrate for the whole lap.
Wellies lost out in courses. We see Kevin Hansen. So the first lap, he got that turned in really nicely and managed to get on the throttle really early. The second lap picked up the throttle just slightly too early and ran the car really deep across the road. Ollie, we've been looking at this and trying to figure out where people might use hyperdrive tomorrow. It seems they're using it onto that long straight at the minute. Do you think there's a chance to pass at the jump, or are we misreading that?
Yeah, I think, you know, before the jump is actually smoother than it looks. The cars take this section quite well and the puddles are not too deep, so I could definitely see a few cars trying to run it deep in there if they can keep on the back of a car leading up to the straight. There's a few decent long straights here, so I can see some strategies changing as the weekend goes on.
We saw a lot of the drivers taking a fair bit of air on that cliff edge, or the knife edge jump as they're calling it. How do you approach that to get the best out of the car and to really tackle it well?
It's tricky. Momentum is everything, especially in Extreme. You've got to keep some high-speed momentum. So I think the later you can leave reducing your speed before that jump, the better. But of course, that comes with a risk, and we've seen a few people not slow down quite enough for the takeoff. And it's a really fine balance. A few, you know, 10K too much, and it's a few meters too far. So it's a tricky balance.
Kevin Hansen, the rear end of the car looking quite loose through that section. I think that wide open section where the mud goes to a darker colour is quite hard for us to read here, but it looks quite whoopy bumpy, Ollie, if you know what I mean by that, through there. You can see the rear end of Kevin's car moving around quite a lot. Are you having to lift off through that section?
Yeah, I mean, for me, that is my slowest section there on section 4. And it's hard to see if it's the lines that are causing it or some of that deep mud, as you say. I think if you go in there, you can lose 3 or 4 seconds very quickly, which doesn't sound a lot, but obviously in these lap times it's quite a lot. So it's a very tricky scenario and surface to try and deal with.
Talking about the surface, just talk to me about these puddles. We can see Michaela Olin-Kotlinski waiting in the switch zone. How treacherous is it and how strange is it to be stood in a pile of water running around on gravel, muddy, clay mess?
It's really tricky, you know. It's not just tricky driving the car. The windscreen gets covered in the puddles. You get covered in it when you're switching over the puddles, the seat, you know. It just seems to get everywhere, this water. But we're sort of used to that in England. You bring your wellies and your waterproofs and you get on with it. So the teams are adapting quickly, but I'm sure they're looking forward to a sunnier event again.
They'll have to wait for next year for that one, won't they, mate? Welcome to the UK. Kevin's out the car. Kevin's first lap to me looked really good. He came in just 2 seconds down, but at the end of the second lap, 14 seconds down. So lap 2 didn't go so well. So Michaela Olin-Kotlinski puts the belts on, and maybe we're going to hear, I think, from Kevin about what happened on that run. Michaela's waiting for the go. There it is. Winds the lock left and right and gets herself out. She's heading down now to complete this 3-lap run with just one quick blast. But I wonder what happened to Kevin on that second lap.
Kevin, I'm struggling to walk on this, but what is it like to drive? How are the conditions out on track?
Well, very different to what I expected. So I'm sure everyone will have a surprise when they go out there. I thought it was pretty okay, but I think the track is getting pretty bad. So yeah, it was not easy. It was my first proper lap. It was quite okay in the beginning. And then I just couldn't keep really up, so we'll have to look into why and try to improve. But the course is fun. I like when it's a bit shorter, like rallycross, so good fun.
Thank you so much, and I hope it gets better.
Yeah, I hope so.
Interesting what Kevin said there. I like the course, it's shorter like rallycross. What he means there, of course, is our tracks have been really long, Jenny. You've been looking at 6 minutes plus for a lap. Then it becomes quite hard sometimes as well to memorise where you're going. So they will be approaching this more along the lines of nailing every single corner. If you know that there are less corners, and even if those corners are more technical, there's a lot of time to be gained there. And Kevin's saying it was completely different from what I thought. That's the section which I think later in the lap is where there's also dark mud, where it's bumpier than it looks. So they might try and dial some things in, but we'll see. You know, Kevin's suggesting the conditions will look at that again. Michaela runs really deep.
Yeah, that's not the ideal line, I think, and everybody's just testing it out to see what is the best line. That one, when you kind of go wide and then cross over through that big puddle, that puddle looks fairly innocent, but actually it's deeper and stickier than you expect it to, so it just weighs the car down. Michaela having to flick the rear end out to go wider to avoid it as well, so that was a little costly bit of time that she'll put into the memory banks and make sure she doesn't do again next time out.
She's gaining time, though, and Olin-Kotlinski is feeling really confident. We spoke to her yesterday. She's been racing in America in side-by-sides alongside Nitro Rallycross, and she actually won one of the races over there. Day one, I think she was P2, and the second day, Jenny, she won. And we said, didn't we, yesterday, is that giving you some confidence? She said, yeah, definitely. I just feel a bit more comfortable that I can do it.
Yeah, and that self-belief is so important, isn't it? Within motorsport, you've got to make sure that you believe in yourself, you back yourself wholeheartedly, and if you've won something, and then you come into this, you've got, you know, that much more to help you.
So much of a driver's speed is in their head, and look at this, she's gaining again. She's taken about 4 seconds off the gap. It was up at plus 14, but Olin-Kotlinski, compared to the drivers who've gone before her, is closing that gap down towards the end of the lap. She's definitely taking some risks, but obviously feeling really confident and comfortable. Big step forward for her. Oh, has she missed a gate? We're not sure if she may have missed a gate earlier on, but either way, pushing hard, coming up now through one of those. She's slowed the car right down.
No, she's finished. She's come through the finish. It really creeps up on you at the end of that. They turn it round into the left, and then all of a sudden they cross the finishing line. Good job, 9:33.667. So next up, it is Andretti United, and you can see there in command centre, Katie Munnings standing by as our little Jurassic friend. We haven't given a name yet, actually. If you want to get in touch, let us know what you think we should name our little dinosaur for the weekend. But Munnings standing by, a little bit of treatment on her back yesterday after a heavy impact from the knife edge. But first up in that car, it will be Kevin Hansen's brother, Timmy Hansen.
Timmy Hansen then off the line, and fastest immediately, so he's got good traction away, but of course that's literally the first waypoint. Coming down towards the left-hander, you can see him moving the car across one side of the road. The sun's come out just ever so slightly. I think it's the first time we've seen a shadow all day. Guns the throttle on the exit and away. So, okay, it looks like they've got good traction, and Timmy is able to match the pace of those early cars. In fact, you can see in the command centre that the Apt Cooper squad are still in there. As the leaders, they have to wait in the command centre. It might be a long wait, Jenny, because they were first out on track. If they're there all afternoon, they'll be a bit... Well, they won't be disappointed, of course, because they'll be winning.
Great stuff. Absolutely great stuff for them at the moment to be leading the field. And just look at Hansen, so determined and committed. The sun coming out, I don't know if that's a help or a hindrance for them, because you can get a little bit of glare back, but it looks like a beautiful day down in Dorset. Just look at that coming out into the full sunshine.
There'll be elements of being able to pick out things more obviously in good light. Anybody who's ever been skiing, you'll know what it's like if the light's poor. You can't see some of the differences in terrain. And so any time the light is brighter, it's easier to read those things. Look at Timmy there. Waits on the throttle to get the car out of the puddle and then guns it on the exit, so it doesn't get that huge understeer. You go just slightly too early on it and you run the car really wide.
Yeah, you can see the live positioning now. It says P4.
And he takes the car out of the ruts there, Jenny, which is also slightly different. Everybody else has left the car in the ruts, coming towards us on that shot. Timmy just dragged it slightly off and got it onto the higher line, onto the dirt. But he's losing a little bit of time. He's 4 seconds down now. Kevin Hansen said, didn't he, on the previous run, the track's way more slippery than I thought. Could it be that it's getting slower? We'll see.
Hyperdrive being deployed, and you can just see the car almost going over the top of everything. Slams on the brakes, over the top of that, not getting much air at all. They took in too much air yesterday, so they've clearly learnt a lesson from their running.
Yeah, Timmy went slightly too slowly over that because he actually ended on top of the jump. Having said that, he's made up 1.3 seconds, so maybe it's the way to go. But you want to be just over the crest and on the down ramp if you can. He just cased it with the rear. He won't have lost any time, but it's not optimal, let's say.
Yeah, speaking to the drivers yesterday, there did seem to be a differing of opinion of how best to handle that jump, how much air to take, whether you just went really slow over it, and actually you could better your time by doing that. So I think each driver comes into it with their own frame of mind about how they want to approach an obstacle like that.
Yeah, and it's also the risk through the course of the weekend. You know, why have a problem now during qualifying? We've said this so many times, haven't we, this year? It's about making sure you qualify well. Don't forget that Andretti United are in that fight for P3 in the standings. Mathematically, I mean, they might be within a shot. We know that X44 and RXR are the two that are right up there for it, but certainly there's 1 point between them and JBXE, I think, in fourth.
Yeah, absolutely. They're on 93 points at the moment, 92 for JBXE, and out front you've got RXR on 129, 113 for X44. So if either of those teams failed to score, you'd have to say Andretti United has still got a push, just in case.
Yeah, definitely. And interesting as well to see JBXE versus Andretti United. That's Hansen versus Hansen. They're only ever in the same team normally, Jenny, so I'm really looking forward to... it'd be good fun, wouldn't it, if tomorrow they had to race for that championship position and we saw the brothers having to get into each other instead of tactically driving together as they used to in World Rallycross.
Yeah, I mean, they know each other so well. They can work out every move they're about to take, and that is tough when you're racing against someone.
Well, what do? You know, when you don't forget they're paid drivers. This is very different to Rallycross, where they're in the team and the family team, and they're both aiming to try to win the World Championship. But with that family squad, this time round, look how long Timmy waits that time on the throttle on the exit. Really nicely done again, so he doesn't run wide on either lap. That's interesting. It was 5.43 down, but he's lost time, so maybe it's not quicker.
Yeah,
really
that section he doesn't seem to be gaining time on, and then he claws it back as he goes a little bit further. So the ditch section proving a little bit costly maybe for him, even though it looks like a slicker option. So let's watch as he flicks it round the corner. He's on his way towards the knife edge. He's in the Continental Traction Challenge zone as well, using the hyperdrive. So is this the chance he's going to get to try and line himself up well, to not worry about where he's going to qualify, but to get himself a shot of these extra 5 points?
Front left wheel was fully locked up there as he came up to the jump. Interesting to use the hyperdrive there. That's where we were saying, isn't it, about potentially passing. Could you make a pass there? Ollie Bennett told us that he felt that it is flat enough to use the alternate line down that section. And Timmy has made up nearly, I think, over 2 seconds on that section.
Yeah, really good run from Timmy. I'd be interested to see the Traction Challenge sector times when we get the splits. But you can see the day is very much changing down in Dorset. Started overcast, now the sun is out. And Timmy Hansen just approaching this finishing line. He's got to go up the twins, round the corner, and then he'll go into the switch zone to hand over.
through the left and the right. There is the finish tower, and he goes to the left of it into the switch zone. 30 clicks through here. It's really tight, the switch zone, so much so that actually the teams are on opposite sides of it. It's like a triangle there, so they're going to park on different sides of it when we've got 5 cars on track together. Handing over to Katie, and Katie, obviously, yesterday, that mistake on the jump, Jenny, and it actually cost Timmy, don't forget, it cost Timmy his lap. So to be fair to Timmy, that's actually a really good run because he didn't get his practice lap yesterday. He got a sighting lap this morning at slow speed with the race director. So yeah, fair play to Hansen, nicely done.
So coming into the switch zone, you can see there, lots of lovely people watching on, but the pressure now on Munnings.
He used the handbrake actually to get around that triangular corner, which we were saying it's a triangular switch zone. He actually used the handbrake under 30 kilometres an hour just to make the car turn in a little bit more.
Very wise, aren't they? Some of these drivers just have all the tricks up their sleeve. So he jumps out, and Munnings, then her little seat insert goes in. You can see how dirty the boots are. Yucky.
No feedback really from Timmy to Katie there, so obviously nothing that they're particularly, you know, that he didn't say, you know, this section's really slippery or this is particularly bad. She reaches up and takes the comms lead off her crash helmet. That's velcroed up there so you can find it easily. There's the triangular switch zone that we were talking about from the drone, you could see.
So mechanic comes out, and that means that Katie is free to look for the timings as soon as it hits 45 seconds. She will hit the D button, so going from neutral into drive. It seems like forever. Maybe they were just slick on that change, but she's away now. So let's go down to the switch zone and hear from Timmy Hansen.
Timmy, has the course developed since this morning? I mean, the sunshine's come out, which is going to be good.
Yeah, that's lovely, but I don't think it will take a long time to dry up this mud. But it does clean a little bit car by car, but these were my first laps on this track. You know, I didn't get to drive anything in pre-practice yesterday, so I'm just happy that it was a clean run. It felt good. I think the car was good. Of course, can always do a bit better, but that was a good, solid run. I think I'm happy with that.
And the car took a bit of a beating yesterday because it was quite a high jump there for Katie. How was it feeling just then?
Oh, we've got great mechanics, so he's perfect again.
Thank you so much.
Timmy there paying tribute to the Andretti United mechanics who got that car sorted last night. They were still working on it when me and Jenny left the track. And you're on board now with Katie, who hasn't lost much time at all. So I would say hasn't lost much confidence then, Jenny, from yesterday's incident over the jump. At the end of the day, that shouldn't affect her confidence in the corners. She's just got to make sure that she nails the speed right up the ramp. She took a glance down. She said the dash said 65 when she hit the bottom of the ramp, and obviously by the time she got to the top of the ramp, it was a bit more. There's that tight line on the inside of the exit of the first of the drop-offs. Look how muddy it is. And that's what Timmy's saying. Yeah, I don't think the sun's going to make that much difference.
Yeah, they were first out on track yesterday in free practice, so you can tell that it's changed quite a lot. The profile of it looks different. The feel of it is different. And as you say, Katie, I don't think she's too perturbed by what happened. I think it was more just, well, get yourself a nice bit of acupuncture to make sure you're absolutely fine for the next day and don't ache too much. The G impact was pretty high, but they'll have learned the lesson. Oh, she's just fumbling around a little bit with the steering wheel. I wonder what she's looking for. There is a little washer on there for the wipers, so I wonder if it's that she's struggling to find.
No, I think she was looking for hyperdrive, Jenny. She looked down at the screen, then she had her hand actually in the wheel. I'm not sure, but she's had to save a moment. Whatever button she was looking for, she's had to save a moment mid-corner, and obviously the buttons move with the wheel, so she's missed what she was looking for at that point. But still doing a great job here.
Yep, she is. The usual Munnings mouth, going like the clappers as if she's having a phone call with somebody, but that's just her concentration face, and she is concentrating out there. She knows what she can do and catching at the moment, which is great for Munnings.
Saw her mum and dad yesterday, didn't we, at the track as well. They're fully supporting her. It's great, isn't it? Absolutely brilliant. And one of the few drivers, of course, that we know has already been signed for next year. Andretti United have released their livery for next year. The car looks really cool. It's in a kind of blue and orange colour. That's on Extreme E's social media if you want to take a look over the line. Yeah, P3 plus 7.99 and 932.1. That's really close, and it's a great job by both Hansen and Munnings.
Yeah, really good team pairing.
So this is a look at Michaela Arlen-Kotlinski. We got a warning up on the timing screen saying that there was an issue with car number 22, which is the JBXE machine. She actually takes the left hand of the 3 chutes, which, as you can see, is not an option, and drives straight through the railing at the top. Well, it was an option. It was just
not one
not
they're meant
allowed.
to take.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so a penalty, Jenny.
Yeah, going through that board, you can see the onboard footage as well. She would have got as much as a shock as the next person, because going through that branding, and then she realises, tries to correct and goes through the finishing line. So that a problem for the JBXE team. So next up to the car, it is our championship leaders, Rosberg X Racing. They've performed so well on Sundays, but Saturdays are the days where they've been beaten by X44. What can they do in preparation to go into this race weekend in the best possible way? Let's find out, because it's Johan Kristoffersen at the wheel.
Kristoffersen with his 4th World Rallycross title under the belt from this season, so his confidence will be super high. But you come here, you know, being the hunted, you're out front, you've got the advantage. That's the opposite of how he went into the finale of Rallycross. He was in the chasing position there. It's the pressure, isn't it, Jenny? He's almost equal both ways. You've kind of got nothing to lose in P2, you just go for it. Whereas for Johan and Molly, they're out front. They've come in with this commanding championship lead that they need to qualify well and put themselves in position, taking that through to tomorrow.
Yeah, I think the pressure really is on them, and you've got to work out how much you want to gamble. But once again, Kristoffersen not looking like he's holding anything back, going full out there, full attack mode, and really seeing what this Odyssey 21 can do around this Dorset track.
Braking a long way around the outside of the radius there, gets the car sideways on the way in. At the minute, he's a second down as he clatters our camera with dirt from the back of the car, takes another half second off on the exit. Looking pretty smooth through there, up and over the crest and round to the left-hand side. And again, he keeps it super tight, Jenny. That is the line, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. It's so difficult to tell, because the line, you know, it's so different because it's in the middle of the water. You can't tell exactly what somebody else is doing. Traction challenge so far, JBXE are leading the way, but Kristoffersen deploying that hyperdrive and seeing how fast he can go around this section. He is really going full guns, isn't he? Just going out there for it.
Oh, rides the car up a bank on the one side of the road and then ends up a little bit too deep. So he hit the bank on the left-hand side of the road. That affected what the car was doing in terms of weight transfer, and he couldn't get it to do quite what he wanted on the exit. He's up at the moment, but I expect he may have lost a little bit of time on the exit of that corner. We're seeing a lot of different places where people can use the hyperdrive as well. Braking now for the crest at the top, loses only half a second, so it wasn't too bad, but I think there's another second or so in that sector.
And the great thing is for Kristoffersen, he gets to do it again, not this afternoon, but the very next lap. And I think the first one, can you use it as a bit of a recce to get your head in for the second one? And if you're going to go for the traction challenge, you can really learn so much.
Very definitely, Jenny. Yeah, it's a great shout because the laps are right after each other. The conditions are going to be almost identical to the lap before. You know, normally they're waiting half a day to go again. He goes up the middle chute, backs the car in, almost into the bank on the left-hand side. Definitely not leaving a lot out there. Reaches across with the handbrake to get the car turned into the left-hander. He's plus 1.44 at this stage. Splashes through a couple of the deep sections of mud over the finish. He's now going to go right, so he'll split off and continue for his next lap around.
Being pretty much blind over the summit of that because of all the mud, and then you've got the sunshine to contend with as well. Crikey, we're giving them a good challenge for the 5th and final race of this season, and you can just see Kristoffersen learning all the time, soaking it up like a sponge.
Look at the way the cars move around as they cross the start-finish straight. They don't even have to make an input. You can just see the car step sideways. Now it steps sideways because Kristoffersen's unleashing all of the electric power down onto the road. He's got the right-hander coming up next, about 2.6 seconds down. He's not going to be too fussed about where they are compared to the likes of Ant Cooper and Veloce. Yeah, Andretti United, yeah, it'll be more interested in that. But it's all about the battle between RXR and X44. Remember, it's Taylor and Kristoffersen versus Loeb and Gutierrez in these two cars, which are up on track, this one now and the very next car.
And they're just about to head back in through the traction challenge. Remember, 5 points up for grabs this weekend for whoever sets the fastest time. At the moment, it's the JBXE team of Kevin Hansen and also of Arlen-Kotlinski, but they will be hoping to take that off this team and see what they can do to claim that extra little advantage across the weekend.
4.2 seconds down now. Remember, they've been masters at managing the strategy, Jenny. You know, in Senegal, they backed it off a little bit because lots of people were having issues in Senegal. Now he uses his hyperdrive, same section again. So, yeah, I think they're gunning for those extra points. I think this is a tactical battle as to when to use it to try and get that extra time in the Continental Traction Challenge. This time he nails the line through there. So he was 2.89 down with the hyperdrive on the exit. We might expect to see that come down a little bit as he approaches the jump section now. What's it going to be when he crosses the next sector? Come on, big push for the championship lead up and over the crest. What is it? Half a second off it. Oh, and almost the camera.
Yeah, that knife edge being in the middle of the traction challenge is really exciting. It's great stuff, isn't it? The car bouncing around, flicking all over the place as he tries to hold on to it. He's just about to finish this traction challenge zone, so we'll get a split on it and find out how well he did, but it's looking like they're set up for a good weekend as the camera goes flying across the countryside.
We've seen a lot of cars, aren't we, in a very, very close gap in terms of time over the 3 laps of this course. Would suggest that we're going to see some very, very competitive racing. But I do think qualifying is important, Jenny. We're not also really that sure about grid position in terms of where he's fastest. The grid, to me, is the deepest mud in the entire lap.
Yeah, very much so. That section looks like it's really caked on, doesn't it? Johansson couldn't quite hear what he said. Coming into the switch zone, 30 kilometers an hour. He'll hand over to Molly Taylor. There you go. You can see her just waiting. Lucky enough to get a lap in with her the other day. Let's have a replay of Kristoffersen.
So Kristoffersen coming through the right-hander, flicking dirt up on the exit. Look, comes across to the left.
Oh, wow.
Oh dear.
What are the chances of that? A stone hitting the drone and taking the drone down. That is ridiculous accuracy.
First big crash of the day, one of our drones.
Is there an award for that? It's amazing.
I know, there should be, shouldn't there, really? Yeah, there should be.
Yeah, that's okay. Just be careful when you leave here, because it's really understeer when you leave. So make sure to turn the wheel a lot.
Okay, there we go. So he's saying be careful when you leave. There is a lot of understeer, so that it's really slippery. Not quite sure what the jug was for.
I think that's water just to clean off the... No, well, is it screen? I thought it was maybe water to clear off their boots, but maybe screen makes more sense.
Yeah, I think chuck it over the screen and then you give yourself an extra litre of water. I didn't spot what they did with it. We were busy listening. And she uses the handbrake. So Johan said make sure a lot of steering, which is what she did. So good job by Kristoffersen. Taylor's got to go out and get it done as well. It's looking tricky out there.
Johan, talk me through that. It looked like a very good session.
No, but it was all right. It was a bit difficult with the visibility when the sun was on the windscreen, but otherwise from that, I mean, it was a decent run. Some things caught me out a little bit. I'm struggling a little bit with the brakes towards the end, so I was a bit cautious, but apart from that, okay.
Thank you so much.
So if Kristoffersen was struggling with the brakes towards the end, Jenny, that may mean that Taylor's going to have compromised brakes for the whole of her run. We were with JBXE yesterday when they said that the pads, they were grinding a set of pads down, because if you look at the fine dirt on the floor there, you can see a good example of it. Those stones are getting in with the mud, it's making a paste. So Kristoffersen had an issue with the brakes. It could have been something else, but it's almost certain to affect Taylor as well.
Yeah, they had a lot of issues with that yesterday in running, and some of the teams having to run without brakes. And I was like, how do you even do that without brakes? And I don't even really understand the answer that I was given, but it's a really impressive feat to be able to maneuver these very heavy Odyssey 21 cars around the track, and it looks like Taylor's having a great time out there.
Yeah, I mean, when you start to lose the brakes, obviously you just have to approach things differently. You have to brake slightly earlier and try maybe slightly different lines. You maybe can't rely on the car turning in when you get hard on the left foot braking. I think it's front pads more than rear, so you may end up also with more brakes to the rear than to the front. But whatever, Taylor is not struggling. She's 1.5 seconds up, so the championship leaders, Kristoffersen came in just a few seconds off the pace of Ekstrom and Jutta Kleinsmith for Abt Cupra, but at the minute Molly Taylor is 1.5 seconds up, so they're really throwing down.
Yeah, they really want this so badly. You can tell she would refuse to talk about anything to do with the championship when I spoke to her her on Tuesday. She didn't want to jinx it. They know they're leading, but they know it's only a 16-point difference, and you don't want to mess with that. So Rosberg X Racing at the moment, not the fastest in the traction challenge. That's still sticking with JBXE, but really nicely handled over the knife edge for Taylor, and they are showing why they are so impressive in this championship.
Yeah, they are. Taylor's really rotating the car a lot on the brakes. She did it into the earlier crash. She did it again there into the right-hander. I say that may be a result of if the front brakes are going away from her, but whatever, she's still getting the job done. Now, if that is an issue, Jenny, it will be an issue for everybody. It's important to say that. You know, the cars are a spec machine. They're all the same, so if people are struggling with that, they'll all be struggling with it, but she's doing well here. 2.6 seconds up. Okay, loses 6/10 there. So that's where we saw Johan almost flat at the bank a couple of times.
Taylor coming into the finish now. What can she do? Can she hold on to first place for them and push Ekstrom and the Abt Cooper team down? That's the big question. And she has done it, so well done to her. Kleinschmidt and Ekstrom find themselves going down a place because it's Kristoffersen and Taylor taking the lead with a 9:21.886. So let's take you on a trip of what it feels like to be in one of these Extreme cars tackling this track in Dorset, because I can tell you what, it might only be 3.85 kilometres wide, but at times it could be pretty hairy going over some of these jumps that we've lined up for our drivers. And you can see how you go into this knife edge drop and how much air you take is important.
It is. It's also important what angle the car lands at, and you can influence that by using the throttle and the brakes actually in the air. So the rotation of the wheels allows you to change the angle of the car. That was a little bit steep on the landing there. That was from Christine GZ in Q1, where she just landed the car on the nose. But I think that's about the limit of the jump. We did see, Jenny, a couple of people went slightly too far on the jump yesterday.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people picked up and learnt from that. Now, this is a waypoint 10, which is slightly different. You've got the little bump, which is called the ditch, and then you go into this very soggy section with thick puddles waiting to trip you up. And the way you approach this and get through it is going to be key, I think, to getting yourself that decent lap time.
Absolutely. You saw two great runs there from Abt Cooper where they got the car nailed onto that inside line. That's what's important to do. You've got to get it into the inside line, and that gives you the best possible exit. Up and over the crest now, and then over to the left-hand side of the road. Got to keep it tight. Didn't see the exit on that one, but you're picking lines based on puddles and dips and traction. We've seen some of the drivers a little bit further over to our right-hand side, drivers left-hand side of the road through here. It's the run up to the jump.
A little bit of locking up as they come into that section as well, and you've just got to time it so well to make the most of the jump, be very efficient. But I tell you what, looks great, doesn't it?
It does indeed. That was Christine GZ again on the run up to the jump, which we saw the landing of just a few moments ago. Slightly too far to the left that time.
Just always looking for that hidden traction, aren't you, I suppose? And sometimes you can take it a little bit too far, but there's plenty of runs across the course of the weekend. Remember, this just from qualifying 1. We've still got qualifying 2, the semi-finals, and then the final race where 5 cars duke it out to see who can win this Jurassic X Prix.
Can't beat slow motion puddles, can you, somehow? You know, a car hammering through mud and slow motion puddles just looks cool.
Yeah, especially with the sun glinting off those little bits of water bobbling around. Beautiful.
RXR, Molly Taylor and Johan Kristoffersen with a fantastic run on their Q1 session. Johan not totally happy. He said been caught out by a few different things, and there are just so many things to catch you out here in Dorset. You only got, I think that, you know, the track surface here is probably changing more than anywhere else it's changed this season. That's the start-finish straight, which for me is the wettest, muddiest section. And then that's turn 1. Got to keep it on the left-hand side, not let the car get out too far into the wet. You can see, though, where the slime has been moved off the top of the course in some of those tighter corners already.
Yeah, it's quite compact when you take away that top layer, isn't it? Right, it's qualifying time again, and as you can see, Acciona Sainz XC team are ready to go. They have their first driver in the car. It will be Carlos Sainz. Laya Sanz standing by, ready to take over after 2 laps. And I can tell you this is not in the order. It should have been X44 with Sebastian Loeb taking to the wheel. He will not do that, and the stewards are investigating it. Highly likely they'll get a penalty for that team of 10 seconds in the championship. How crucial could that be?
Yeah, and why? We don't know why that might be. We've had teams go late because they wanted to repair the car, but we weren't aware of any issues for X44, but they've not showed up in their designated order, and we've already had a bulletin through saying you'll get a penalty for that. And I think that's wise by the organisers, Jenny, because we've seen teams, we thought last time, were some people a little bit tactical battle about it. But on board now with a four-way split screen, you can see Carlos Sainz sending it big time through the narrow section.
Oh, his door's open. His door's open. This is no. There was something wrong. He was lifting his hand up to the left. I don't know what he was quite doing. Maybe the door is not open, but he was adjusting the entry of the air coming through. The cars can mist up a lot. I wonder if that's what he's doing.
There's a slider window on the side there, Jenny. I didn't spot it, I must say, but he reached up potentially closing the slider if it's had mud come in on the very first section. He goes through that long right-hander. We've got a man on site who might be able to give us a little bit more insight on this. Matthias Ekstrom joins us from the Dorset track. Matthias, Carlos is always impressive to watch, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he has amazing car control, and yeah, although even through this muddy section, it's difficult to have car control.
What is the key then to getting it right when you're out there, Matthias?
I think on these sections which are a little bit dry and gravel, it's any driving for anyone, which is quite easy to have control of. When you go in the muddy sections, the car is floating a lot, so you need a bit of luck when you hit all the puddles. And the more cars are driving, the ruts are getting bigger and bigger, so it's easier to get those snap over and understeer, which are disturbing, so it's not really smooth. And I would also say this jump, you have to somehow time it to get it right. And Carlos did a nice jump there, so he got it right, and yes, not to be too fast.
You guys had a great run, Matthias. You were right at the top of the table until RXR, and still your time is still super competitive. What's your feeling? You were first on track. When we saw you guys yesterday, there was some talk in the paddock where people felt that as the mud cleared off the top, it might get quicker, but you're telling us you think the ruts are getting bigger. So do you think it was advantage to go at the start, the middle, the end of the session? What are your thoughts now you've seen a few cars?
I think some section of the track is definitely getting better as the mud gets wiped away, but you see Carlos now, he ran a bit wide in this corner, brake a bit too late, so you lose the flow. And then some sections, the mud gets more muddy with the more you drive through it. So I would say some parts of the track you lose, some you win. And on the start-finish straight, especially if you get somehow a line in a rut where there's no standing water, you get a lot more speed. So just interesting to see Carlos here. If he can nail it, there you see the scrubbing off speed. So I think that wasn't perfect, but you also need a bit of luck how the car bounces on that straight.
Oh, come and join us all day long, Matthias. Yeah. Don't worry about competing. Just come and speak with us. It's great stuff. You can see the Sainz team going really strongly out there.
Yeah, I mean, this corner where he is now is before the long back straight. So here was where I fired my hyperdrive to get some bonus speed. We did not put priority on the super sector, so we were more thinking to go for overall time, and it was quite easy to use it here. And this is actually the fastest corner in here, in that right-hander. Of a small crest into super fast right-hander. And now a little bit bumpy braking before this very long hairpin right, and it's super easy that the rear in one of those jumps goes wide, you get a bit of understeer, and then you get it back again. So very, very difficult two corners. And here it's just to be patient in this mud hole. After this crest, you turn left, and here it is really the slowest place of the track. And you see Carlos, he drives super inside, just stay away from the puddles, and then exit through the mud. So he did that really well.
Amazing insight, Matthias, thank you. Now with regard to hyperdrive, you mentioned that you prioritised lap time over the traction challenge. You think to take the traction challenge, you'll need to use the hyperdrive in there, but that's not the right place to use it in terms of lap time?
I think you can. We have seen our game versus the others. I think we might try now for the second quali to use the hyperdrive in the super sector. But again, for us this weekend, it's more about having a clean run and trying to stay out of trouble and make a good overall result. And for us, those 5 points is not really a priority.
Sainz and Sainz doing a great job out there. They were fastest yesterday in free practice. Matthias, I assume that you're just gaining knowledge all the time, either whether you're in the car or just watching these on board.
Yeah, I mean, normally when I sit and watch, so then I have the driving picture you see, plus I have the live sector times, the live gaps that comes from gate to gate. So then you look on the TV and you will look on the live delta time, so you see when you're gaining or losing. So where I sit now, there is no timing, so I can just sit and enjoy commentating what I see, but I can't have the confirmation if it's slower or faster. So for now, I don't know if they're ahead or behind me, for example.
So at the minute they're 4.4 seconds down on the fastest time, Matthias, so they are behind you guys, and I think they'll be, it's pretty close behind. This is where Carlos reaches up. What's he reaching across to on the left-hand side? It was a door shut, Jenny. Well spotted. Look at that, Carlos. Multitasking, reaches up. I mean, you didn't have to worry about your door last time out, if I remember correctly. You lost it, didn't you, mate?
Yeah, it was. I lost it. It was on the right side, so I couldn't do much. But anyway, I were feeling that's easy. And then I thought, through the water splash, I'm not so keen to go flat out through and fill the car with mud. So anyway, you're just happy to have the car in one piece after our Q1. But yeah, I think it's the action is not over here, even if it Q1 so far have looked pretty smooth. So I have to say, you know, if we are ending in a decent position in Q1, it's all up for grabs in Q2, so that you can somehow get the top 6 position, that you end up in the semi-final and don't have to go and do the crazy race.
Yeah, everybody wants to stay well clear of the crazy race. So the switch is done. Carlos Sainz gets out of the car. Laia Sanz preparing for Dakar at the moment, very focused on this weekend, and then her focus will flip to January 2022 and what she'll achieve in Saudi Arabia. But she's off now, and I think this is a strong pairing this weekend, shaping up really nicely. Let's find out what Carlos thinks of this track in Dorset, 3.85 kilometres around the Bovington tank range.
Carlos, you're sitting in 4th and you lost 4 seconds there. Was it to do with the door?
Yeah, it wasn't very good. It was also the sun was very disturbing. I couldn't see very well a couple of places. So yeah, not the best run, but at least no mechanical problem.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for speaking to me.
Matthias, one last word from you before you go. I think you're prepping for the Dakar as well. Did you have any chats with Jutta, of course, the previous winner of the Dakar, your teammate? Is she able to offer you any advice?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about Dakar quite a lot, but I have to say this weekend we're focusing on this and just trying to end on a high here. But I also have to mention, as Laia is driving now, yesterday she drove really, really well, and I think she was the one person who have made the biggest improvement over the last couple of races, and her pace yesterday's was really, really impressive. So I have to say she's one of the drivers I was really excited to see how she will do today, because if she picks up where she ended yesterday, I expect her to be one of the quickest girls today. And I mean, so far it looks pretty good. It's still a bit left on the lap, but yesterday she was really impressive.
Thank you, Matthias. Good luck for the rest of the weekend.
Thank you for having me. Enjoy it. And if you need any help, just give me a shout and I'll come tomorrow as well.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. So multitasking talented, aren't they? Matthias Ekström, thank you so much. So you can see Laia Sanz there giving it full beans, but
not good visibility, Jenny. I think they've run out of water on the washers. She's not got great visibility, so if she gets much more muck on the screen, it depends. If it's wet, that'll help. If it's muddy, it could hinder her big time, but they're not getting a clear view out the front of the car, are they?
It's at times like that when you need to go through the puddles actually rather than trying to avoid them, because it gets some water on there and can make it easier to see. But they didn't use the bucket trick at the switch zone, and I just wonder if other teams will see this and go, okay, we have to use a bucket in that switch zone to clear the screen.
Yeah, I think they'll be wanting to next time out. You can see what the wipers do when it isn't quite wet enough. They just smear the mud over the screen. It is getting slightly better as the lap goes on. It's so hard though, and you say, oh, we'll drive through the water. You know, if you catch it wrong and you end up with mud on the screen instead, but they're super close to that top time.
Coming round into the finish now, Laia Sanz brings it over the line. What can she do currently in P2 through that big splash zone? That will mean that's very clear for her. It's a 9.22, 7.42, 0.8 down, second position.
Segi TV, Chip Ganassi Racing on the line with the Hummer EV ready to go. Kyle Leduc and Sarah Price will be taking over as we see our T-Rex friend run around the command centre there. Maximum attack from the T-Rex and maximum attack from the All-American squad. I'm desperate to see a good result for these guys. We spoke to Kyle and to Sarah yesterday. Everybody saw the half race they had last time out when Sarah was left out on track with broken steering. Big upgrade to the car. It was actually Kyle Leduc who ran me through what those updates are. We've seen So far, nobody have any issues. If anybody's going to have an issue, Jenny, it's probably these guys. But I think if there is anybody at home who doesn't want them to win, what is wrong with you? I know we're supposed to be unbiased, but I just feel like these guys need a break.
You're going all out, are you, then? You're just calling that you want them to win?
I'm just saying it. I do.
Fine.
I do. You know, the championship's a different story. These guys have had such hard luck.
They really have. Time and time again, we've seen the luck not go their way. They're currently on 63 points. So, yeah, they need a decent weekend here, and they do deserve it. But you can see there, Leduc just holding his hand up, the sun now shining right in his face, and he just needs to try and avoid that glint in the glare. Pretty nasty.
Shades of Harry Vatanen on Pike's Peak there in the famous Peugeot video,
beautiful.
with the hand up, shading his eyes to see. But yeah, I mean, great tactical, and again, super cool doing it, isn't he? Just reaches up. Low sun, of course. This is one of the shortest days of the year here in the UK. And early running for these guys to try and get everything done during the course of the day. Lights ablaze across the front of the car. So far, he's 2.73 seconds down, but he did say to me yesterday, look, we're taking a different approach this weekend, and I think that's in terms of how much they attack. Of course, Sarah was super disappointed, wasn't she, that she just, you know, over-jumped on day one, and that actually, don't forget, cost Kyle his lap yesterday.
Look at the Hummer lights as the car comes through with the windscreen wipers going full tilt. You have to send it around to the left here. Very important part if you want to try and challenge for this Continental Traction Challenge section. Are they going to go for that, or like some of the others we've heard from, concentrate on overall lap time? All getting up on that ridge there on the left-hand side, maybe taking a little bit too much of that.
No, I think Leduc's done that on purpose.
What?
He's used to Baja racing. He's used to trying to pick his line over it. Look at that. He's gained time in that sector as well. So he's maybe just thinking there's a tiny bit more traction up on the ridge, out of the wet. I'll be surprised if that wasn't tactical. They're pretty switched on, these guys. And they've got so much experience, haven't they, in this arena, this kind of racing. And we've had our eyes on them all year, Jenny, and I'm keen. I'm keen.
I know, and they are hugely exciting as a driver pairing. And we just want them to do really well. I think everybody, as you say, is cheering them on. So they take the middle line once again. Remember, you can't go left, you can't go right, but they're taking the middle line round the corner. They'll take the first of these switch zone breaks, so into lap 2.
So Kyle Leduc into lap 2. He used his hyperdrive on the run-up to the 2 chutes at the end of the first lap, which was an interesting tactic. About 4.6 down now. This is the section which is really important. You can see opposite lock as he came down through. He wants to try and carry the momentum through. Look how much momentum that mud sucks out of the car. That line through there, and he loses a couple of seconds. Well, maybe half a second at that point. I think he was 4.5 down, but hard to pick a line through there.
Yeah, and clearly not quite nailing that as he would have wanted to. Flicks the car around. It looks resplendent, doesn't it, in this sunshine? But Kyle Leduc doesn't care what it looks like. He just wants to set one of those blazing times where he can really hand the car over to Sarah Price, having done a great job, and they can get it round. 3 clean laps is what they desperately need.
RPM rising on the car as he comes onto that long straight there. He lifts the hand again just to shade his eyes from the sun on the brakes up through gate number 7. Look at the sun there, and when you've got the mud on the screen and the glare, you can see how much it affects just what you can see. And then he's got to try and pick his line in it as well. There's the very, very long right-hander.
Beautiful, the way he hugged into that and really took the curb nicely, getting a really good line out of that section. You can just see the car bouncing around at the bit as they come over this section of the ditch into the water. You can just see exactly where the water is, and he's really picking a different line to try and get the best traction possible. You can see the traction on the... Oh, crikey, crikey. I thought that was going for a second. Keep it all 4 tyres down, please.
Runs it up the right-hand side of the road, taking that inside line that everyone's been taking to try and find it. JBXE still leading on the Continental Traction Challenge from RXR and Acciona Sainz. You'd have your money on... either Kyle Leduc or Sarah Price going for that, but don't forget as well, X44 running out of order will be coming at the end of the session. Can Sebastian Loeb steal those 5 championship points off RXR? Of course, it's not for short, it's in every session. You'd like to take it in this one in case the track starts to get slower.
Hyperdrive deployed for Leduc as he comes around for his second section over the jumps, setting a nice piece of pace here. You can see that number in green. He is catching.
7 seconds is the difference between them and the top time. At the moment, looking at the timing screens, there's only 9 seconds across the top 5, in fact, and there's only 3 seconds across the top 3. So it really is, I think this is the closest event in terms of pace in a qualifying session. No issues so far for anybody in this session. I think that's a big nod towards the guys who've been modifying the cars, extra steering components on them this weekend to make them that bit stronger. Into the switch zone comes Kyle Leduc. He's 8.3 seconds down, and he will hand the Hummer over to Sarah Price.
Oh, look, so focused. She's willing him in. Obviously, you've got to hit that 30-kilometre-an-hour section. Want to listen in to see if she's going to say anything of interest.
I don't want to see Sarah Price sad face this weekend. We've seen it we saw it in Greenland, didn't we?
So
we saw it last time out. I want to see happy face for these guys. We want to see a great race, don't we? It's looking like it's going to be so competitive this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's doing such a great job of sticking together. So you can see she's just banging the insert. So much nervous tension and adrenaline coursing through your body at that stage. So Kyle slams it into the zone for the switch. Go, 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 they say. Let's listen in and find out what they're going to say. Talking about rotating the wheel.
Got a shout of 30 there from the sideline to let them know how they're doing. So they're 15 seconds into the switch. They know they've got plenty of time.
20 seconds.
That's a great voice. Scott Elkins, you're in danger of losing your command center voiceover because that is a great voice.
Sarah just getting the wheel back on. The car was left up with a lot of lock-on, so she's just rotated the wheel a couple of times to make sure she lines the splines up perfectly.
Go, go, go,
5-second countdown and go, go, go. Okay, so maybe a second or so lost at the end there. She's going to tighten the belts down just slightly. That's allowed, you know, as long as you've got the belts on. She launches the Hummer into lap number 3. So Sarah Price now going to try and bring this home. Let's hear from Kyle Leduc. Okay, apparently Kyle's headed straight into the command centre, and I'm sure he's keen to see a good result for Sarah out on track. 7.7 down, she's gaining. She had a couple of tenths and then loses a couple in turn 1. I wonder, Jenny, is this a sign of that different approach they said, particularly after yesterday, the big jump and the problem with the car? Are they just taking it a bit steadier and getting a qualifying session in the bag?
I mean, they do have a little bit of a reputation for being ram raiders, don't they? They go out there, they give it everything, and then the car comes back limping to the garage, and it doesn't really help the guys who are mechanics working on the car. So yeah, as you say, maybe they've worked out that actually they need to build up across the course of the weekend and just take it a little bit easier. Not too easy though, as their hyperdrive is deployed by Sarah Price. You still want to give yourself the best platform, don't you? Gain the most amount of knowledge that you can across the course of the weekend.
I think Sarah used the hyperdrive in the wrong place there. I'm not sure, or if it was slightly later than she would have liked, because it wasn't time to deploy the full 4 seconds, Jenny. We know there's a couple of places, don't we, on course where you can do that. 11 seconds down, she runs a little bit wide in the slimy mud on the exit there.
That looked like it might be a decent line, actually. I'm not sure if she found it by trial or error, but actually it looked like it kind of worked. And we heard, didn't we, from Matthias Ekstrom earlier, just saying, you know, it's a little bit of luck when you're out there. You don't quite know what's going to work and what's not going to work.
What really struck me about what he said as well was about the start-finish straight, about when you come up through there and you're trying to carry speed through that deep mud, that you need to get in a dry set of ruts and you can launch the car out the other side. Otherwise, literally it gets sucked down into the ground. And we've seen the momentum disappear out the car. So there are areas on this track, yeah, where it's a mixture, isn't it, of skill and luck.
It's going to be so important when it comes to the final of where you start. Grid play being one of the tools that the teams can use to help them, but choosing the right grid slot, getting the opportunity not to be the last person to choose as well, could be crucial for your weekend if you're one of the teams fighting for a championship spot at the top.
Sarah Price then some 13 seconds down. She lost a bit more time on this lap, but it may be a tactic from the team just to get a safe session in the bag. Up and over that bumpy section, that's where we were saying earlier on, do you have to lift? It looks like you do. They're currently in P6. They're just, I think, just slightly out of touch with that top group of cars that's over 9 seconds. They'll be hoping to come in front of JBXE. Coming up to the finish line now, plus 12.99. Just the right and the left to go. And Segi TV Chip Ganassi Racing slot into P6. Final run then of Q1. And it's X44 chasing down that championship lead of RXR. RXR at the top of the timesheet. It has, of course, been X44 who've done the best job in qualifying all year. They've taken that top qualifier spot at all 4 rounds so far. Sebastian Loeb launches the machine off the line. He's got to try and close that gap down to Christopherson and Taylor. Him and his teammate Gutierrez have definitely got the talent and the speed to do it. But we've seen so many people have had issues with the slippery conditions here in the UK. Loeb through turn 1. Of course, Loeb is an absolute master of these tricky conditions. 9 times a World Rally champion. These narrow, slippery roads will remind him very much of many of the events he's been to, but particularly to Rally GB, of course. And I would expect Loeb, well, immediately going fastest. He's half a second up already, and I think he'll go for the Continental Traction Challenge at the back part of the track as well. So Loeb now, okay, P2, but by 600ths. Jenny, he's doing exactly what we thought he'd do, and I reckon it's going to be full send come that Traction Challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Catching all the time and looking so sure-footed out there, isn't he? Such confidence.
This is his territory, isn't it? This is absolutely bang on what Sebastian Loeb is up for. Up and over the crest to the left now. Visibility there is really tricky. Pulls a handbrake on the exit to get the car pointing in the direction he wants. Tries to light it up, but that maybe bogs down a little bit on the exit there. I don't know if that was quicker or not. We'll see when we get to the next split.
Look, fastest at the moment, and that purple colour showing you that the purple car is absolutely gunning for it. He has got the full throttle on. He is giving it everything at this point in time. He knows what is up for grabs this weekend. He knows the championship is on the line, and he knows if he can nail this, he gives the team every opportunity of taking this title challenge all the way to RXR.
He used the hyperdrive there on the exit of that slow, muddy, wet section. He's a second up, so that may be enough to try and take this Continental Traction Challenge over the jump. Now going to land it on the downslope and away. This is what we've seen, but didn't clip the barriers on the outside there. I think he knocked down some of the hoardings as he exited the jump. No problem with that. There won't be a penalty for that. It's not a waypoint. But Loeb is absolutely on full push here.
Yeah, it really is. Remember, they will be investigated for not going in the right order. That could be a 10-second penalty added to their time, but that doesn't matter when it comes to the Traction Challenge. They just have to deliver the fastest time in any of the 3 laps that they're out there for.
Barely lifts across that bumpy section. Really, really committed now. Backs the car in up the hill. Still 3/4 of a second up. He's got another lap to go, remember. This is our fantastic drone shot. You'll see him now. There's the finish line. He'll cross that, and he'll split to the right rather than the left and go out for his next lap. This next section is absolutely crucial. How he goes over the start-finish line, whether they lose time in that really deep mud.
Yeah, so you can see just how compacted some of it is, but as they go over the start-finishing line here, that mud is just lurking for you. You've got to pick the best line, pick a rut that's maybe already there. The back swinging out slightly as they go into the funnel section. It's looking beautiful for Sebastian Loeb, still about 7/10 fastest.
Yeah, good line through there, picked up a couple of tenths. We've seen people losing time through that section when the momentum's just been pulled out the car. I don't think, Jenny, they're going to be able to finish this with 10 seconds up, which is what they'd like in case they get a penalty for running late.
The field is so close this weekend. They are not going to have a 10-second margin on everybody else. Of course they would like it, but I think that this is the most challenging track we've seen when it comes to splitting the drivers.
That's actually a really good point. So the 10-second is not just going to drop them behind RXR, remember. It could potentially drop them down as low as 5th or 6th on the table in Q1. That could see them lose several more points to RXR at the end of qualifying. So it is very much in the hands of the stewards, saying on our screens they will be investigated for missing their assigned qualifying position. They were supposed to run 2 cars ago, absolutely flying. Now they had to replace something on the car, so it had to be done.
Yeah, it was the front inverter malfunction, so they had to do it. So the question is whether the stewards say, okay, you had to change it, otherwise your car wouldn't go, and then they give it a mitigating circumstance and they don't get the 10-second penalty, or actually when the rules is rules, and them's the rules.
Exactly. We'll see, won't we? We'll find out what that decision is later on today. 1.3 seconds up. Loeb used the hyperdrive in the same place again and attacks the Continental Challenge again. You saw at the top right-hand side of your screen the current standing. Still JBXE are the fastest through that section, so Loeb hasn't managed to take it so far. Can he take it on this lap? It's those points would be a big difference. Lands the car on 2 wheels.
Yeah, that didn't look like it was the perfect way to land the car. We didn't get to see it. I'd love to see it front onwards. We'll try and get the producers to do that for us, but just watching him, it's majestic.
Another half second up, so he's gone 2.21 now. Loeb is really flying. Gutierrez is going to be taking over the car in just a moment's time. Oh, he misses out on it. Look, by 0.19 of a second, draws with RXR in terms of the time through the traction challenge, but neither able to take it away from JBXE.
Just goes to show you can't split them in anything at the moment. Yes, 16 points stand between them in the championship standings, but actually they are dead level through that section. Incredible.
Loeb down to 30 kilometers an hour now, coming in 1.86 seconds. And he's going to swap over to Cristina Gutierrez, the French legend. Here's another look at the jump. Remember, this isn't a penalty for hitting the signage, but we thought we'd seen it on board. He actually comes up short on the jump and runs off the side. So he ran off the side of the jump, and that's where he's lost time.
I tell you what, I hope they haven't picked up a puncture for that. I know these Continental tyres are robust. We've seen them tackle like the Rock Garden before, but this is quite a big hit. So I wonder if any of the mechanics are just going to pop out. They're allowed one mechanic to check over the car. I think it'll be fine, but those are the sort of things that can really trip you up on the course of a race weekend.
I'll tell you what won't be fine is our camera. Finally, somebody nailed it. Johan got really close to it, didn't he? But Sebastian Loeb just went, you know, fully and nailed the camera, basically.
Tell you what, that and one drone down.
Yeah,
they know it's the end of the season and they need a party.
They're entitled to it. They're entitled to it. So Loeb running back out the switch zone now. They release the car at bang on 45 seconds. There is Cristina Gutierrez with the sunglasses on. We said no sunglasses would be needed, and we, of course, have been proved wrong immediately.
Just because you didn't pack yours. Luckily, Cristina Gutierrez is a little more with it, and she did pack hers. She's going to need them, though. Sun shining down. Will it be shining down on them at the end of today?
So Gutierrez is heading out for her lap. Sebastian Loeb has just handed the car over. We can hear from the Frenchman now.
Sebastian, you are 1.8 seconds up. You were flying through that. The championship is on, game on, and you've responded.
Yeah, I was trying my best. I think did some good lap. A little mistake in the jump both time. I think I lost a bit. I broke too late. I arrived a bit sideways on the jump, so. Yeah, but except for that, I did a very good run, pushing on the limit from the start to the end. No big mistakes. It's really tricky with the mud, so easy to do some mistakes. But we went through, so now we will see what Cristina can do.
And what about visibility? Because the sun has come up. We saw Kyle Leduc having issues with it. Carlos said the same thing. Did you have trouble?
Yes, it's not easy, and the visibility is not so good. Also, with the mud coming on the windscreen, we need to wash it all the time, and it's a bit disturbing. So, but overall, we know the track, so I managed not to lose too much time with the sun.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I have to say, he didn't sound too disturbed, and he certainly didn't look too disturbed, but there are a lot of things for these drivers to take on board. Now, we are hearing that it's unlikely they're going to get a penalty for going out of order because it was something outside of their kind of control when the inverter went, but we'll wait for official confirmation before we can tell you on that. Oh, dear!
Gutierrez on two wheels. She's been gaining time since she took over the wheel, so she's gaining time on her fellow female drivers. They were 2.5 up, she was 4.5 up, but almost on two wheels, Jenny. Then a lot of time spent in the mud. How has that affected her? She loses 3 seconds. Now jumps onto the hyperdrive to try and make up for that. They'll want to take that fastest time if they can. Of course, they'll be praying that steward's decision goes their way.
Yeah, that was a really sticky section for Gutierrez, just not coming together, going up on two wheels, and then the landing into that sticky bog zone didn't really work out for her, but she is now going to gain time again, so she's doing a good job here recovering.
So Loeb said he'd hit the jump wrong twice. Watch now for Gutierrez coming up. They're all taking that left line. Obviously favours them in terms of the braking zone and getting the car up and over the crest. She's just far enough on. You can see where Sebastian Loeb dropped off the side of the road there and knocked down the Continental tyres, branding at the side of the jump. No penalty for that. The penalty was in the time lost. Considering he only missed out on that traction challenge by 0.19, I would suggest if Loeb nails the jump, he could be on for that in Q2.
Yeah, Gutierrez now just rounding things out, doing a really strong job out there. Fastest still as she takes the X44 car for the challenge. We know they've set the fastest times. All of the races that we've seen so far when it comes to qualifying hasn't come together for the race. Can they fix that this weekend and take the championship?
Coming up into the last corners now. She's 2 seconds up. Just the right-hander and the left-hander go. Cristina Gutierrez for X44 with Sebastian Loeb. They set the fastest time of the session. It's out of their hands now. The stewards will decide whether or not them running last was allowed, but it's a win in the session. Job done.
So let's go on board then and take a look at this brilliant four-screen we've got of Sebastian Loeb in the X44 going head-to-head with Johan Kristoffersen for RXR.
Yeah, so both of these clips were absolutely synced at the start of this run. So they crossed over the start-finish line. They're both going through turn one now. And then you can kind of see the difference between them. But Jenny, they're locked so close together in terms of results. These teams, yeah, and let's not forget as well, Molly Taylor and Cristina Gutierrez, whose results have also been, you know, 4 drivers have got to get the job done this week, and they're desperate to take this first ever Extreme E title.
It's just a really good window, isn't it, on these drivers, the different techniques they employ. We've seen it already. Kristoffersen maybe using the gear stick and the brake a little bit more. And the handbrake, and just really crafting around with the steering wheel. It's fascinating to see the inputs for both of them.
Yeah, the minute Kristoffersen's just ahead. So Kristoffersen on the left-hand side, you can see coming up to the crest, has come up through them. And look, you know, when you're riding on board, looking at the commitment is really tricky to see a difference between them. They're both clearly absolutely bang on it. Took the same line, didn't they, which we've seen over that crest. When you drop off, you've got to keep it on that inside line on the dry section where you can try and then find a bit of grip and exit there as quickly as you can.
It's like playing Spot the Difference on a massive TV screen. It's fabulous just watching them.
Hour, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And the inputs you can just see on the dash slightly different. There we go, Johan on the brake again.
That's the time that Johan made a mistake. So that was when he came up the bank on the left-hand side of the road. You saw the car get really wide. He had to use the handbrake there to get it rotated back the other way. Now, if you look at it on the right-hand side, Loeb is ahead of Kristoffersen. Only just. He didn't lose that much time, if you remember, and they come up to the crest now, and they're almost back equal again. That's what always fascinates me. That was Loeb, of course, destroying the Continental branding. Fascinates me that over the distance that we go, you see where drivers lose and gain time. It's on the brakes, the entry or the exit, and that ebb and flow goes through the whole run, and they'll come to the end and be within tenths of a second of each other. Yeah,
the chevron board on the marker side, you can see very clearly that at this point it's Kristoffersen just slightly in the lead of Loeb as they're entering into the final bit of this run, and it really is an insight onto their world, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a look at the chute as well on board, which you've seen. Look how committed Kristoffersen is as he comes into there, up and over the crest. Huge use of the handbrake from Johan as he comes over the left crest, not from Sebastian Loeb, so different techniques through there.
Oh, look at the water that came up for Kristoffersen on that bit as well. It was a lot more than on Loeb's line, so that's a difference as well when it comes to the two drivers' styles.
Kristoffersen again used the handbrake on the crest right as he comes back down towards the
Loeb
start
used it at all?
He's just so smooth. His inputs are small, and yes, but they're both effective. I think that's the point really here, is we're seeing two driving styles which aren't that different, just little differences between. But actually what happens is the clock stops at a very similar time. It's going to be an incredible battle all weekend long.
Just 16 points separate the two teams coming into this final. It could be closer, but it feels like it couldn't be closer. So this is the qualifying classification after round one. X44 lead the way from RXR, and then Acciona Sainz having a really good time of it as well this weekend. Abt Cupra, and then it was Veloce, Andretti United, Segi TV, Chip Ganassi, JBXE, and the Excite Energy team are down at the bottom. But this is just qualifying round one.
Yeah, for me, this is the closest qualifying session we've had all year. If you look at this, 43 seconds across the entire field, but at the top, there's only 10 seconds across the first 4 or 5 cars. So it's insanely close, but it is still X44 and RXR who are right at the top of the table.
Yeah, let's find out a little more and go down to the paddock for some reaction. Jutta Kleinschmidt is standing by, but first of all, let's catch up with Molly Taylor.
Molly, you grabbed the car in 3rd position. You managed to get it up into P1, but now the unclassified results is P2. X44 has responded.
Yeah, it was nice to get back. I mean, for me, it was just nice to have a clean Q1 after the past couple of races. So to be honest, I was just really happy to get through. But yeah, I mean, the track's evolving quite a lot, and yeah, we need to put our best foot forward, and that's what we're trying to do from the start.
How important is qualifying tomorrow?
Yeah, qualifying's important. There's good points on offer, so yeah, we have to play smart, but we also, yeah, we still have to be quick.
And is the question of the championship playing on your mind, or are you trying to put it out of your mind?
No, look, we're just focusing on this event each day as it comes, and just trying to focus on each session and just not think too far ahead. We've got a big job still to do.
Jutta, that was a great qualifying. You held on to P1 for quite a long time, but ultimately finished in P4. How tricky are these conditions? I mean, you are the Dakar queen, but how tricky is the mud here and the wetness?
Yeah, I'm not so used to the mud normally. It's very tricky because sometimes you have really like aquaplaning, you know, when you go over it, and you have to be careful in corners. If you slide too much out, it's getting even worse, and then you lose really a lot of time. So it's extremely tricky.
We've seen that the big jump really was difficult for Katie yesterday, and of course for Sebastian today. How do you tackle that?
Yeah, I think this difficulty there is to find the right speed, you know, so it's in between 10 minus plus 10 kilometer per hour. So it's very tricky. If you make too much, then it's too much, and if you make a little bit less, then you lose time. So it is super tricky.
So much to take in, to take on board when it comes to this Jurassic X Prix, but your top three as it stands at the moment: Loeb Gutierrez for X44, RXR, Christopherson and Taylor, and then Sainz and Sands in third place for Acciona Sainz. So a decent day in the office for those three teams.
Yeah, really close, isn't it? The margins are absolutely tiny. You hear Jutta talking about if you jump the jump too far, if not, you lose time. It's 10 to 10. We've got grid play as well, and that could be really important this weekend because we've seen how wet and muddy that grid section is. We don't even really know where the teams would prefer to start, but we know they will prefer to have the opportunity to choose that slot.
Yeah. It's fascinating to watch how that battle goes across the course of the weekend as well at the moment. You can see puddles, mud, but doesn't it look resplendent out there?
Great action so far here from the UK. Round 5 of 5 for Extreme. Look at the conditions they've been facing. I'm wondering what it's going to be like for qualifying too. The track's been developing. We've seen certain sections going quicker, certain sections going slower, but what we have seen is the closest leaderboard we've ever had this season.
Yeah, not too much rain is forecast. Surprisingly, some of you might think that the UK only offers rain. We do have some other weather here as well, and this weekend looks fairly dry. So is that going to make things better or worse? Would some of the teams like a wetter challenge? I don't know. It's fascinating.
No, we don't know. I'm not sure the teams quite know how the track's working either. That was Johan Christopherson taking out one of our drones. We've had a few cameras taken out. We've had a few cars almost taken out as well. But it has been a brilliant first session from Dorset in the UK. Stay with us for the rest of the weekend to find out who is going to be crowned the champion.